Testing audio. Thank you.
Good evening to everybody who has joined. The council just concluded a closed session meeting moments ago, so we will get started shortly.
Good evening. I'd now like to call the meeting to order. My name is Diane Howard, Mayor of Redwood City, and thank you for tuning in to our virtual City Council meeting tonight. Attending the meeting tonight via teleconference are Council Members Aguirre, Espinoza Garnica, G, Reddy, and Smith, Vice Mayor Hale, and myself. As a reminder, the start time of all regular City Council meetings has been changed from 7 p.m. to 6 p.m. pursuant to Ordinance 2496. Items will be taken in the order they are listed on the agenda, and I'd now like to ask our City Clerk to call the roll.
Good evening. Councilmember Aguirre.
Here.
Councilmember Espinoza Garnica.
Here.
Councilmember G.
Here.
Councilmember Reddy.
Here.
Councilmember Smith.
Here.
Vice Mayor Hale.
Here.
And Mayor Howard.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Aguilar. I'd now like to ask Councilmember Smith if he would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to ask members of the community to join us in saluting our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilmember Smith. Moving on to item number 4, presentations and acknowledgements. 4A, recognition of Assembly Member Kevin Mullen for Assembly Bill 129 funding for the Redwood City Ferry Terminal. This evening, I have so looked forward to giving special recognition to our State Assembly Member Kevin Mullen for his efforts in securing funding for the very long-awaited ferry terminal project in Redwood City. Because of these efforts, Governor Newsom recently signed Senate Bill 129, which will provide $5 million in funding to support the construction of a new ferry terminal and bring high-speed passenger service to Redwood City. The business plan for this project is currently underway. At their June 23rd meeting, the Port of Redwood City executed a funding agreement with the Transportation Authority and entered into a contract with the consulting firm CDM Smith to complete the ferry business plan, building off the findings of the ferry feasibility study and the cost-benefit analysis. The business plan will further explore community concerns around environmental impacts, equity, and first and last mile connections, as well as more financial analysis to ensure that the cost to build and operate the ferry would be financially feasible and sustainable. We can expect the business plan to be presented to the Port Commission, the WEDA or Water Emergency Transit Authority Board, and the City Council in late fall. After the business plan is completed, next steps would include completing the project's environmental review, design, permitting, and eventual construction. Additional community and stakeholder engagement are included in the business plan, and would occur during preliminary design and environmental review. I truly want to thank Assemblymember Mullen again for your support in setting this project in motion. I'd like to welcome him at this time so that we all can say thank you. Assemblymember Mullen?
Thank you so much, Mayor. And I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge you, Diane. I know you were an early adopter, as they say, of this ferry project in Redwood City. And I'm just grateful for the recognition. I'm grateful for your collective leadership, Mayor and Council. Thank you for calling me to the meeting tonight to say thank you. I want to return that thanks because without all of the spade work that you all have done, it wouldn't have been possible to secure that $5 million. And I know that money will support WIDA. Ultimately, Seamus Murphy is a longtime a friend and colleague and an outstanding public servant. I know he'll be a good steward of those dollars. But very briefly, I was able to see firsthand the value of the ferry service in my hometown of South San Francisco when I was a council member and mayor here. It was very supportive of the economic vitality in the biotech and tech sector in the east side of our community, and I know the same will be said for Redwood City. And just please know how grateful I am, but also really how proud I am to represent the city of Redwood City, this dynamic community that is a leader on housing, a leader on policies for working families, is an economic engine, not only for our county, but our region and really our state, if you look at just the economic output of your community. So please know that I am always touting the good work being done in the city of Redwood City when I head to the Capitol. And I'm honored to be able to assist you in this regard. And please let me know if the check doesn't clear. I expect it to. We are in frankly, an unprecedented surplus situation, which made a number of these local expenditures possible. Things that had been sort of in the planning phases, but we hadn't had the resources to fund. We are now in a position to do that. But I think it's going to be public money, very, very well spent, and will yield great returns over time with the work that's being done to establish that ferry service. So thank you again all for the recognition, and honored to be with all of you tonight, and more importantly, honored to represent you at the Capitol.
Assemblymember Mullen, I want to thank you. I so enjoyed working with you all those many years ago with Pedro Gonzalez, former mayor and council member in South San Francisco. And the vision was to have the north-south connection for the Bay Area for ferry service. And I didn't think it would take this long, but you know what? Better late than never. I am so pleased and honored to be able to accept, and I certainly will watch for the check and make sure it doesn't bounce. I promise you. Thank you for your efforts. We are very grateful that you represent our community so very well. Thank you very much. And thank you for being with us tonight.
Absolutely. Thank you all.
Moving on now to item 4B, the presentation by San Mateo County on Middlefield Road Smart Street Project and the new office building, or COB3. We're going to welcome our San Mateo County staff to give an overview on some projects that are currently underway at the county campus in Redwood City. Interim Director of the Information Services Department, Michael Wentworth, and Project Manager, Ulysses Vinson, will present on the Middlefield Road Smart Street improvements, and Director of the Project Development Unit, Adam Eli, and Project Manager, Laird Benion, will talk about the new county office building, or COB3. So I will turn it over to Mr. Wentworth, and maybe you can take it from there. I see there are two Mr. Wentworths.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There was a slight mix-up in technology on our side. Ulysses is not talking, and I'm obviously Mike Wentworth, and I'm here to present with Ulysses this project that we hope Redwood City appreciates as much as we appreciate doing it. And with that, I'll turn it over to Ulysses.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ulysses Vinson, and I must Apologize now because my dog Bam Bam is in the background, and normally this is kind of his time that we go out for a walk, so he's not too happy. But it's an honor and a privilege to be here to talk about this exciting project that we have been working on. The Middlefield Road Improvement Project has been a part of a project that our Public Works Department has been working on for the last decade. And so one of the things that we have been asked as part of the technology division of the county is to add an innovation layer to this amazing road improvement project that we're doing. It's basically just south of downtown on Middlefield, right where the railroad tracks began. And it's a half-mile corridor where we're seeing, we're adding a new streetscape. We got new landscaping. We have new street art. Public art, there's a new bike lane that's going to be a part of the improvement project, and a host of other things. And so what we've been asked is to see how we can make this particular corridor the smartest one in the county. Not just the county, I should say, the smartest in the country if Supervisor Warren Slocum has it his way. So with that, we can go to the next slide. So I'll just quickly go through the vision, the experience, and then I also have a list of the smart solutions that I'll go over with you very briefly. And you'll also include in your package for your review is just kind of a deep dive into each smart solution that we are planning to do along that corridor. Next slide. So again, one of the things that we envision is to see how technology, how do we use data and technology to do two things. One is to improve the services that the county provides for this unincorporated area. And the second one is to see how we can improve the quality of life for the people that live in this community. Next slide. And a lot of it is aspirational. And here you have some of the workings of what our Community Affairs Department has been working with the community for the last few years about, what type of experience they would like to see. And so we create these verticals to see how we can kind of group all the discussions that have taken place in this community and put it in these verticals and see, some of the things that people had some concerns about, or even aspirational. So the first one is economic development was the first one. We wanted to see how we can use technologies to help the small businesses along the corridor. The other one is arrival. What is the experience of actually arriving on Middlefield Road? Whether it's looking for parking, when you're driving, or even with this new bike path, where do you park your bike? And if it's an EV, how do you, can we charge my bike once I get there as a destination? The other one is connect and engage. And one of the things that we wanted to do is to see how we can, again, use technology to have, whether it's two-way communications or just one-way communications, to see how we can better engage the community there. And some of that is kind of like, kiosks or using smart signage and things of that nature. And health and safety was a big concern here in North Fair Oaks community as it relates to air quality, as it relates to public safety. So again, using technology to see how we can enhance that. And lastly, we talked about data. One of the things that, for us is how do we use data and make it, worthwhile for the policymakers. One of the things we wanted to see is how can we collect data that we didn't have before and see how we can improve the community. And one of those things that we were doing is to see whether it's pedestrian analytics to just air quality monitors along the corridor, and having one place to go to where you can look up this information. Next slide. So these are the smart solutions. And that's just kind of an illustration of what the street will look like. And this is a public works document. And as you can see, with the added bike lane, the traffic is reduced to one lane for each direction, north and south, as well as a turning lane. And so one of the things that we were looking at, again, with smart parking, is to see how can we capture or make that experience more relevant to folks. So we're looking at different types of smart parking. I know it's something that Redwood City has some experience in doing. In fact, we have collaborated with Redwood City in the past because we have a garage on our county campus, and we use the same vendor that you guys have in your downtown campus. And so we were saying there was no real need to reinvent the wheel. So we're looking at parking type solutions to see how we can get people more efficiently to their destinations along this corridor. Public Wi-Fi, that's it's a huge thing as far as getting people connected along the corridor. One of the things that the county did in the last year was a huge push to bridge the digital divide because of the remote learning. And we have about, 800 different public Wi-Fi hotspots throughout the county. And so what we wanted to do is to make sure that this particular corridor was connected for whether you're a pedestrian or whether or not you're a small business owner. So that's going to be part of the extension of our current SMC public Wi-Fi. Things like smart trash solutions. So we're looking at options such as Big Belly, where they're solar powered and you're able to compact the trash and optimize your pickup times. We're looking at digital bus stops, where you have live on demand arrivals and departures for buses that will be on like a digital signage at the bus stops. Pedestrian analytics is another one. When we think about Vision Zero and really trying to figure out how can we get to that point of having zero fatalities as it relates to pedestrian deaths, we want to have kind of data-driven solutions that we can actually point and see where if there's any pain points in any part of this picture that you see here, we'll have data to back that up. The community fiber network is also very interesting. As we start potholing and digging up the street, the county is going to be provisioning for its own fiber. So it kind of reduces our reliance on just using, say, Comcast by default or other providers. And we're going to use that not just for county business, but we're also going to be using it as the basis for our innovation solutions that we have there. Smart street lights, that's another one where each one of those lights on your picture there will be connected. They'll be able to be remotely, you can remotely make changes to the lights, whether it's, weather or where it comes with a dashboard where you can find out whether or not one of the lights are out. Air quality monitoring, this is going to be an extension of what we've already started doing throughout the county. We went from having one air quality monitor for the entire county to 14 at the moment, one of them being right downtown, right across the street from the box headquarters. We have one of the equipment there that's continuously monitoring the air quality, giving people that live and work in the area hyper-local information as relates to air quality in that particular neighborhood community. Then you have traffic monitoring. Again, it goes back to the Vision Zero. We're looking to see to make sure that we don't have any pain points as it relates to pedestrians or bicycles or car, bus movement along that corridor. And finally, the smart kiosks and digital signage. We're looking at ways to see how community-driven content can be communicated for the community as well as how we provide services. So things like COVID-19 and vaccination information, these are obviously, we can use these types of devices to get the word out of where people need to go for any kind of relevant content that the county may have. And next slide. So again, we just kind of put each smart solution into each vertical, whether it's economic development, arrival, connecting and engaging, health and safety, and again, data-driven policy. So one of the things we envision as a whole, as we kind of start implementing these things, is that we want to have a one place to go where it's a dashboard where you can obtain any kind of data that's actually happening along this corridor. So a lot of the things are kind of in the background that you won't see, but you'll be able to collect that data that we hope to make available to everyone and to the general public, so everyone can see what the air quality is, how many bikes at what times have the bikes have gone up and down the corridor, are people biking to work, maybe to downtown Redwood City. So this is in a nutshell what we're doing. We're very excited about it, and we look forward to working with you guys. I know you guys have a lot of exciting things that you guys are doing as it relates to downtown, and we're always looking for ways that we can collaborate more with the cities. And with that, I can answer any questions. I think I was under 5 minutes. I hope I was just given 5.
Well, you allowed time for questions. That was brilliant on your part. Well, first of all, Mr. Benson and Mr. Wentworth, thank you so much for giving us this wonderful story that you're telling about Middlefield Road and the experience you're trying to create. I want to thank you for that. And I also wanted to thank former Mayor Ian Bain because Ian Bain, I know, was very, very supportive of the work that you're doing and that you're planning to doing, and he went to many neighborhood meetings there to talk to the neighbors and let them know this is something that they really need to engage in and have more input on. And I'm really glad that this is coming to be. I think he might be listening tonight, and I wanted to be sure that we thanked him for his involvement also. Council Member G.
Thank you, Mayor Howard and Mr. Vincent, Mr. Wentworth. Thank you for the presentation. Mr. Vincent, when do you start and when does it finish?
Good question. So we actually, the groundbreaking is already underway. So what we're doing, we're mapping out, because this project has been going on for quite some time, we have to find the placement where we can come in and do the innovation work as well. So we're out the gates now. We're meeting daily, and they actually starting to dig. And so we're looking at, we're thinking that this would be an 18 to 22, between 18 to 20 months is what the time is. So we're looking at late 2022 or early 2023.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Mayor Howard.
Thank you. And I'd love to know more, and it doesn't have to be right now, but I'd like to know more about what a smart bench is. And I know smart kiosks, I believe I know what they are, but and community fiber network and public Wi-Fi. I'm just wondering if there may be purchasing power by finding out how we could work together. I know as far as smart kiosks, we've been talking about possibly doing something like that in and around Courthouse Square or in the near vicinity, or along Broadway, and who knows, maybe Middlefield. But I just think there may be opportunities here for us to capitalize on using the same equipment and possibly save some money by purchasing along with you when you do make these purchases. So I'm hoping that you'll be able to reach out to our staff and talk to them more about that.
Absolutely.
Thank you very, very much for your presentation. Really appreciate that. And now are we going to be turning it over to Mr. Eli and Mr. Benion?
Yes, hi. My name is, thank you, Mayor Howard, Vice Mayor Hale, members of the council. My name is Adam Ely. I'm the director of the San Mateo County Project Development Unit. I oversee the county's new development and construction. We're really excited to provide you a brief progress update regarding our County Office Building 3 project, which is currently under construction just over my shoulder, actually, at the junction of Middlefield and Marshall on the county's Redwood City campus. I'm joined by Laird Benyon, who is one of our excellent project managers, and he oversees this project along with another project manager, Daniel Griffiths. Laird will briefly hit the project particulars and highlights and show a few building exterior and interior renderings. As you'll see, working with our architect, Skidmore, Owings, and Merrill, and under the direction of our board president and our District 4 representative, Supervisor Slocum, and the county manager, we've refined our design so that it is contextual to and integrated with Redwood City. But at the same time redefines the San Mateo County Government Center with an iconic design that reflects the values of the community. So with that, I'll turn it over to Laird to run through our slide deck. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I'll take you through the deck real quick, and then Adam and I will both be willing to take any questions you have. Next slide, please. Okay, I don't know if you guys have seen the renderings yet, but this is, our building is axial, and this is the north and the south side of the building. They mirror one another. This is actually looking south from the footsteps or the front steps of CLB2. But the building, if you're looking north on Marshall, at the corner of Marshall and Middlefield, this is precisely the same view you would have. We've got in the center, you'll notice there's an entryway there, and we've slightly changed up the rhythm of the glass to sort of signify that that's where one would enter the building. We're trying to make the plaza that is at the center of the building on both ends an incredibly welcoming space. So the outdoors and the indoors seem to blend together. We wanted this to feel like the people's house. like a civic institution that every one of us as citizens would be able to take pride in. Next slide, please. Some of the goals we had here, we wanted to make sure we had a contemporary working environment that is, you know, offers the sort of dignity and the same sort of advantages that a lot of the other Class A office space has for the area and the market. But we did not want to make something that was going to be tone deaf in an era when we're increasingly aware of the environment around us. And so we had a lot of very, very high environmental stewardship goals we wanted to hit. And on top of that, last but not least, it's a civic building. It needs to feel civic. Redwood City is blessed with some really wonderful civic architecture, in fact, right across the street from us. And we wanted to make sure that we were able to contribute to that and have a building that's going to be reflected well over the ages. Next slide, please. This is a really brief overview of what we're hoping to do for our schedule. You'll notice that the orange column that's second in from the left, that's where we're at right now. We're actually on our second day of drilling piles. We're hoping that no one's noticed. We're trying to make it as quiet as humanly possible. And right now it's as quiet as the laws of physics will currently allow us to be, but we're going to be doing this for probably the next 30 days. And then after that, a little bit more, slightly quieter foundation work, all leading up to our steel cores and our CLT frame coming in. I'll explain what that means shortly. Next slide, please. Sustainability goals, we've got a lot. Zero net energy, we're going to hit that. Low embodied carbon, because we're using what's called CLT, cross-laminated timber, we're thinking it's going to be a carbon negative building, technically. We conserve a lot of water. This is a really great project. Next slide, please. You've seen this. This is downtown Redwood City. San Mateo County History Museum, obviously, is kind of the focal point of the slide. Fox Theater, and then in red, that's our site. We realized and recognized there was an axis of some of the more important buildings in downtown. We wanted to make sure that we were able to kind of contribute to that so that this building looked like it was part of a trajectory for downtown rather than a liability. Next slide, please. I mentioned obliquely earlier CLT, cross-laminated timber. This is going to be a building that's made out of wood. And in the last 15 years, we've seen, 20 years really, new technology emerge that allows us to use wood the same way we use steel and concrete. We can theoretically build towers 20, 30 stories tall out of this stuff. The Europeans and the Canadians already have. We wanted to build a building that was contemporary, that was environmentally friendly, and just is going to look cool. And we're able to do that right now and also stay on budget. In fact, we've got a number of exciting developments in that regard. Large building, 208,000 feet. 5 stories, actually shorter than the original building plan, so only about 76 feet tall. We'll hit LEED Platinum, and we're extremely proud of it. I'll also walk you through some of the street engagement features that we're planning. Next slide, please. This is us in plan. In the lower left-hand corner, I want you to notice that that's the corner of Marshall and Middlefield. That's really kind of going to be how most people in the downtown Broadway axis are going to see the building and then hopefully walk over toward it. And in that corner, we put what we call the multi-purpose room. We'll come up with a snazzier name for it, but that's going to be an open area that can be used for really any civic purpose. We're hoping it's going to be used for public gatherings, classes, lectures, outreach. We're making it large. We can't really give you too many other details or renderings yet, but this is going to be something that we see as a huge civic asset. Public space where no one feels they need to feel that another entity or maybe a corporation or something controls the agenda. We want this to be the people's place. Next slide, please. This is our front door. This would be facing on Marshall. We're trying to make this feel as welcoming, as open, and also as sort of serious as we could. You know, in previous eras, we would have used Greek columns and lots of brass and glass or gold and copper and whatnot. We wanted to make this building out of contemporary materials, but still make it feel timeless and feel as though it was something different than your average commercial office building. Next slide, please. This is the interior, and this is what a modern cross-laminated timber lobby would look like. So our columns in there are actually made out of glulam wood. The ceiling, that's actually the cross-laminated timber itself in several different flavors. This is actually also going to double as what amounts to the lobby that one would go through in order to enter the Board of Supervisors chamber for supervisors meetings. And then you will notice we've put in sort of a clear story window that allows people to look, just give you a tiny little view up in the second floor. Next slide, please. Floor plan, this is actually the second floor, but it's an office building. You know, floors 2 through 5 are going to house, we're hoping, several hundred county employees and different departments. We're trying to give them as much space, you know, and productive and dignified environment we possibly can. But it's going to be a hardworking office building. We're designing it to last, we're hoping, well north of 100 years. 200 years would be even better. I don't know if I'll be around to see it. Next slide, please. This is more of a breakdown of how our structural systems work. It's made out of wood again, so you can definitely see that come through in the color. Very few other changes from what you would see in a steel building, however. It's built largely the same way. The materials behave the same as steel. Wood actually behaves better in a fire than steel does. Steel melts at a comparably very low temperature. Doesn't snap, but it just melts. Wood performs incredibly well for a long time in fires. We're not expecting that. We're obviously going to have sprinklers, all the other fire suppression systems, but what we really like about this is just the material feels really nice. When you're walking into a wooden space, particularly one of really high finishes and whatnot, it just feels a little bit more humane. I'm happy to also report there's cost savings over the life of the building. Obviously, the longer it lasts, the cheaper it gets. And it's a tremendous amount less embodied carbon than either steel or concrete. Next slide, please. Here's our office. This is what it'll look like. Try to make the windows a little larger, but you know, we also have to hit zero net energy. We have to make sure this is very easy space to cool. We will have operable windows, however. It's going to save us a tremendous amount of power. And it's just a really light and sort of air-filled space. We're really looking forward to how this is going to flesh out as we build it. Next slide, please. Here we go. This is a stacking plan. So HSA, second floor, and actually the first floor as well, along with public spaces. Third floor, we do have a tenant identified. We're not going to tilt our hand just yet, but that should come eventually. County council and HR, fourth floor. Supervisors and the county manager, fifth floor. And again, this is the same rendering. It's actually mirrored on both sides of the building, so this would be identical to what you would see from the corner of Middlefield and Marshall. Next slide, please. I guess that's it. I apologize for going a little bit over, but we're happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Ely and Mr. Benyon, very much for your presentation. Does council have any clarifying questions they'd like to ask? Seeing none, I was going to, oh, here we go. Council member Reddy first.
Thank you, Mayor Howard. This is really an extraordinary design. I was really impressed, and I want to thank you for the sustainability design values that you're bringing to the table. I did notice, however, there was a lot of concrete in the as you're going into the building, and wondered if you were considering permeable surfaces rather than concrete, solid concrete. So that was one question. And the other was, now that we're coming out of this pandemic experience, do you find yourself making the employee workspaces larger than you might have previously?
I'm happy to take those questions. Adam, did you want to chime in here?
Go ahead, Larry.
Oh, thank you. Councilmember Reddy, first of all, in answer to your first question, we looked at the ground floor very carefully. We wanted to make sure, that's typically the hardest working part of any building, right? Because that's what we all experience from the ground. We wanted to make this as low carbon a building as humanly possible. There is, it's unfortunate, it's inescapable that we do need to use some concrete. So our foundation is going to be very, very light. It's much, much smaller than it used to be on the old design. And that's a function of how light the rest of the building is. So we're saving a tremendous amount on the foundations, and then really the rest of the building is all wood. The streetscape and the ground floor of the building, where we can't use glass, we do have to use some tilt-up concrete. It's actually cast in place and then tilted up. We had flirted with a couple other materials, but at the end of the day, for maintainability, for resilience, and then just for cost, the ground floor did need to have concrete skin. It's not structural. You know, what's holding the building up and the ground floor in particular is still wood, but there are basically concrete panels around the outside. In answer to your second question, which I really like, we had the opportunity to examine how this building was going to be designed during the pandemic. And we gave it a tremendous amount of thought, largely because we're all sitting at home, designing the building on Zoom. And what we came from that was we wanted to make sure that our staircases were, there were quite a few of them. They all were day-lit and they're all large. So first and foremost, we wanted to make sure that everyone used the stairs as much as humanly possible. Elevators use a lot of power and stairs are good for you, but no one uses stairs unless they can see daylight. And then you want to make sure that, like in an older building, really big, fat, wide staircases. The other thing is we have operable windows for all 5 floors. And the advantage to that is that we're saving a tremendous amount of power that would ordinarily just run the HVAC all day. The building will be smart enough to know when it's warmer inside than outside, and if it wants to cool down, windows automatically open up. The benefit to that is that it saves us a tremendous amount of power, and then it increases the quality of the air inside the building. So you can, you know, periodically hear birds chirping and smell the change of the season. That comes with a host of other attendant problems, but we've worked through that. So that's already in our budget, and we're going to be building a building that breathes. For the rest of the spaces that employees will be working in, we are at a marginally larger space allocated per employee than you'd find in a Class A office building, certainly in the city, but also throughout Silicon Valley. So we're hoping this is a very humane place to work.
Thank you. That's great information. The permeable surfaces I was referring to was actually the hardscape from the sidewalk.
Oh, I'm sorry, I took the question in the wrong direction. We have been looking into a number of surfaces for that, particularly as you get closer to the entrance of the building. There are a lot of considerations we have to make. One of them is it has to be strong enough to park a fire truck on. But we've focused a great deal on the hardscaping around the building and also the landscaping. It's not entirely finished yet. We have to finish that up on our 100% CD side.
And I would just add that we will of course have bioswales and other natural water gathering systems on the property, but the permeable pavers are fairly expensive, and we have to also, as Laird mentioned, make sure that we're strong enough to hold a fire truck for fire access, and so that's kind of steered us to a little bit different direction than the permeable pavers.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Hale.
Thank you, Mayor. It's funny, I went the same direction with Councilmember Reddy's question, and when I saw the photo of the lobby, I actually thought the flooring was cork flooring, and that got me really excited because I've recently learned about it and become obsessed with it. Really excited that we're going to have a timber building of such size and stature in Redwood City, and to learn a little bit more about the process. A couple quick questions on that. Price of timber has been up, so how is it more affordable? I'd be curious to know about the economics and how much you've been holding your breath as timber has fluctuated throughout the process.
I'll take that one since
okay, and then I have a second question after that. Go ahead.
You know, we actually, not sure that we could say it was intentional, but we actually hit the market for timber at kind of the right time. It was before the escalation kind of went wild. And so we had locked in our pricing and got our bids slightly before you started seeing all those articles on CNN and everywhere about how timber is through the roof. Not to say that it was cheap, you know, it's been cheaper before still, but we kind of timed it rather well. I just wanted to mention, you commented on the possibility of cork flooring. It's funny that you say that because we haven't shown you the renderings of some of our interior spaces because we're still working on those. But cork flooring is part of the plan in those spaces, partly because of their acoustic properties. because when you have a ceiling that's exposed wood, you start to have to find other ways to dampen the sound. So I've been learning a lot about that too recently.
It's also great for insulation, and it feels good on the feet. That's fantastic. I can't wait to see that. And then the only other question is, this looks so different from what was presented to us 2 years ago. What inspired such a significant change? And if I may editorialize, improvement. I really prefer this direction. I think it speaks to the values that the Board of Supervisors espouse in terms of sustainability. Indoor, outdoor certainly embraces the great natural resources we have in this county. So this is a pretty big 180. What inspired the change?
We had, when the pandemic hit, we had the opportunity to sort of pause and take a second thought about where our design was going, whether or not we still wanted to sort of do an elevated concrete structure, or whether we wanted to pivot and do something a little bit different while we were sort of in the early stages of the pandemic. The costs of elevating that structure were going to be quite substantial, and we made the determination that it would be better to turn our investment towards those sustainability measures and some other measures that we thought would make the project better as a whole. So we're really pleased with where the design has gone. Whenever you make a change, it's fraught, but we're very pleased with where it's going and happy that you are as well.
That's fantastic. Yeah, we passed REACH codes in Redwood City last year, and it's good to see all of our tenants and all of our residents raising the bar for environmental standards and efficiency. So this is fantastic, and thank you for sharing it with us today.
Thank you. And I agree with the comments that have been made. I was going to say thank you. I want to thank you for respecting the height and having it be 76 feet. It clearly, it just really honors the dome and the History Museum, and I really appreciate that you didn't push it to be taller. I know that's something people in the community are very sensitive about in our downtown. So thank you for that. And thank you for the sustainability features, the design and the features you're offering. It's going to be quite a handsome building. I hope that you'll keep us up to date, give us regular updates, work through our Jennifer Yamaguma at the city manager's office will help get the message out in our e-news so that we can let the community know fairly regular whenever you have some updates, or if you're going to be closing streets and detouring people, that really, really would be helpful, communicating that as often as possible so we can prepare people for any detours they need to take. So thank you so much for coming, Mr. Benyon, Mr. Ely, Mr. Wentworth, and Mr. Vinson, I believe, is the last gentleman. So thank you so much for your presentations tonight. They were really, really good. Thank you. We look forward to the projects in the years to come, hopefully not too far along. Thank you.
Yep.
Moving on to item 4C. It's my pleasure to introduce you to the Bay Cities Football Club, to the Redwood City community. They bring a new professional level soccer league to the region. Bay Cities FC, or Football Club founder and president Andres Perez, and co-founders Ivan Martinez and Casey Watson have joined us here tonight, and they're going to share the information about the new football club. Nice to see you all.
Honorable Mayor, City Council members, and staff, thank you so much for having us here and for giving us a little chance to present to you all on Bay Cities Football Club and our objective and our project to bring professional soccer to this beautiful town of Redwood City. With me, I have Ivan Martinez and Casey Watson, my co-founders. We'll go over a little bit on the inspiration behind Bay Cities Football Club, our mission, the team behind the team, a little recap on our summer season attendance and community engagement, as well as some of the work we've done with our community partners and local businesses with regards to the impact and the opportunity we've created. Next slide. So why Bay Cities FC? This is an actual question that comes home for me. I am the product of Salvadoran immigrants I'm a first-generation college graduate, and soccer has meant everything to me since I was a little boy. Over 7 years ago, I came to Redwood City to work at Juventus Soccer Club, a local nonprofit youth soccer club, and I've used soccer as a tool to inspire the youth in this community to achieve collegiate placement, as well as open up the door for professional soccer opportunities for both the boys and girls in our community. For us, this is where Bay City started, and it's my mission to be able to now provide even more opportunities for the community here in Redwood City, and to inspire our youth to be professionals both on and off the field. Next slide. Our mission. So we're committed to winning. Obviously, we're competitors in the sport, but we're also committed to winning both on and off the field. And our bigger mission is to uplift the youth and the community, as we've mentioned. We have both a male and a female women's team, and that is where we are looking to achieve our goals. We're looking to tap into the next generation of American youth players. We have an immense area of talent on both the men's and women's side, and we want to give our next generation of soccer players the opportunity to realize their professional dreams. A big part of that is already, if you have a chance to visit our YouTube channel and see a little bit of the spotlight video we've created for North Fair Oaks community member and team member Miguel Guerrero, one of our featured players. The focus on the community, as we've mentioned, a force for positive change and for good, and we know what the power of soccer is in uniting the communities and bringing members of from all different backgrounds together to root for one common goal. And we've adopted a startup mentality in everything that we've done and we are doing. Innovations at the center of our league commitment, our franchise operations, our fan engagement, and our match day experience. Next slide. The team behind the team, for us, is specifically, it's important that we work with local leaders in their respective fields. And so one of the sources of pride that I have is that the individuals in this team are actual individuals from Redwood City who are experts in their respective fields, but by being from Redwood City, keeps Redwood City at the heart of everything we are doing. So it's myself as the co-founder, Casey Watson, our business strategy and go-to-market lead, Ivan Martinez, our co-founder, community engagement lead, Bev Yanis, who's a former professional women's soccer player for over 10 years in the National Women's Soccer League, and Don Kianian, who's our marketing and digital content lead. Next slide. We are going to call Sequoia High School our home, and we have for the summer. One of the most exciting things about Sequoia High School, among everything that's great about the facility, is its proximity to the downtown district, the downtown area, and goes in line with our objective of looking to drive business and traffic to the downtown area in hoping to benefit the local businesses there. We also plan on utilizing the public transportation resources that are at our disposal with Caltrain, having already began working with them and hoping that this also helps reduce the impact we'll have in terms of traffic around the neighborhood around Sequoia High School. Next slide. A little bit about our our summer season we just ran. We had over 2,500 fans come across our 6 women's and men's team games. We partnered with many nonprofits and other community leaders, such as the Police Activities League, Boys and Girls Club, Catholic Charities, the Siena Youth Center, and the Ronald McDonald House. We were able to do a Community Appreciation Day, as well as host a vaccination drive there in a tent, multiple information booths at Redwood City events, and work with the local youth soccer clubs in our area. We've built a grassroots digital community with over 2,500 friends and followers across a short time span of 6 months. And we're gearing up to play in the 3rd division, which is the professional division, the starting level of professional soccer here in the United States on a national landscape in 2022. Next slide. I'll turn over to my partner, Casey Watson.
Great, and thanks, Anders. So establishing a community-based pro soccer club is really a team sport. So we've set out to build partnerships with both public and private leaders in Redwood City and across the peninsula. So our first major partner is Redwood City-based commercial developer Premia. So not only is Premia our main team and community event sponsor, you see them on the shirts that our players are wearing out on the field and across different signage and such, but we're also collaborating to bring innovative new soccer field facilities to Redwood City's youth soccer players. And the absolute coolest one or component of this plan is what you see here on the screen. There's actually going to be a rooftop soccer training center that's going to be built on one of downtown Redwood City's newest development projects, 601 Allerton project. So with that blueprint in hand, we're now seeking additional public and private partners to bring more opportunity and impact to the city and the region. So next slide, please. So what's the long-term impact of Bay Cities? So at the heart of it, as Anders was saying, Division 2 and 3 men's and women's professional soccer brings diverse communities together through the excitement of sport in a really what we hope to be a family-friendly and affordable outdoor entertainment environment. So long-term, we're looking to bring the lasting, impactful asset to Redwood City and the region by engaging residents, visitors, and businesses in the region, stimulating new jobs for adults and apprenticeships for area youth, heighten local and regional pride and camaraderie, unite people and communities, and celebrate diversity and inclusion. So next slide, please. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to our third esteemed partner, Ivan Martinez, for questions or comments you may have.
And before that, thank you, council members that have already attended some of our games. And I know, Diane, you came out to our game. Giselle just recently joined us, Alicia, Michael, and the rest of you. We hope to catch you guys at one of our future events and see if you guys can shoot a penalty or something for us. Yeah, we'll take some questions, if any.
Well, thank you so much for being here this evening and for your presentation. Welcome. Do council members, does anyone have a question for any of the gentlemen who are with us this evening? I see no questions at the moment, but your presentation was very, very thorough. I really appreciate that. And I so enjoyed with my husband going to your game, and thank you for allowing me to kick a penalty kick. I'm sure I didn't threaten the goalie whatsoever. He was very kind. But I really enjoyed myself, and I really enjoyed the enthusiasm of all the players on both sides and the camaraderie that happened with both sides. So I think it's wonderful. And to have that right at Sequoia High School, beautiful field, it's just wonderful. So it's very, very good. And thank you so much. And if we can help get out information for you, I know you have so much for marketing, but we'd be happy to help through our Redwood City e-news and other areas of getting information out through social media. We'd be happy to help, whether it be your schedule or upcoming events of any kind. Let us know. Thank you again for being here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much. And shout out to some of the city department leaders like Alex and Chris Beth and Simon, who've already been working with our team closely. So thank you guys so much.
Yes, thank you to our staff. Continue the great work. Thank you very much. Have a nice evening. Moving on to item number 5 is public comment. At this time, we'll take public comment on items that are on the consent calendar, on matters of council interest, and on items not on the agenda. This will include public comment on item 8A, the council referral regarding a resolution supporting unionization of Dignity Health Security officers. Procedures for making public comment are on the screen. Please take the time to read the screen. And now I'll turn it over to our city clerk to facilitate public comment on consent items, on matters of council interest, including item 8A, and on matters not on the agenda. Ms. Aguilar?
Thank you, Mayor Howard. You can see the instructions for public comment on the screen. In order to see how many speakers we have for public comment at this time, we ask that you please raise your right hand and keep your hand raised until you are called. And if you've joined us by phone, you can press *9 to raise your hand, and we'll give it a minute for people to queue up. Okay, we have 20 speakers at this time. This is for consent. Items not on the agenda, matters of council interest, including 8A. This is the time to make comment on that item. Okay, we have 20 speakers, and I will call your names two at a time. Each speaker will have 2 minutes to speak. And our first speaker is going to be Jody Paley. Our last speaker is going to be Adrian Brandt. So after Adrian speaks, we will close public comment at this section of the meeting, and anybody who's not able to provide live public comment during this portion is asked to email your public comment to the council at council@redwoodcity.org. So keep your hands raised until you are called. We'll start with Jody Paley. Following Jody will be Dan Slanker.
Thank you. Good evening, Council, Mayor Howard, everybody else. I'm here to speak with you this evening about Chase the Chill, Redwood City. This is going to be our 6th year doing this, and just thought I'd better give people a heads up that they might want to get started. For those who are not familiar, Chase the Chill is a program whereby we collect handmade items, hats, socks, scarves, and gloves that are hand knit, hand woven, crocheted, felted. If you want to cut a piece of fleece and just cut some fringe into the edge, then you have handmade something. We collect all the items during the month of October at various sites around the community. I'll be back to tell people where those sites are once we know this year. And then we have a tagging party to put tags on everything. Every item gets a tag that says, "Take me if you need me or if you want me." And then one day in November, they all appear around various sites in the Redwood City and Redwood Shores. Every year, they've tended to be gone by about noon of that first day, and very rarely anything after that. And to give people some idea, last year we collected 851 items that were distributed. And over the previous years, we'd averaged 500 to 600 items. So I approximate that I think we've collected between 2,500 to 3,000 items over the 5 years that we've existed. And that is all donations from the community. I also have, speaking of community donations, if you need any yarn, you can get in touch with me. The Facebook page is Chase the Chill RWC, and I'll be posting on Nextdoor as well, so you can contact me there. Thanks very much, everybody.
Thank you, Jody. Our next speaker is Dan Slanker. Dan will be followed by Mark.
Yeah, hi, this is Dan Slanker. I'm here to speak about Docktown this evening. And like I always start speeches here about Docktown is that displacement is second only to loss of a loved one in terms of stress. And how wrong is it to displace residents of your own city? Well, it's completely wrong. It's absolutely absurd for a city or state to displace residents over policy enforcement. Docktown has been here since 1954. That's coming up on 70 years. And there are ways to work through the compliance. It's completely absurd and poor compassion. The Trail of Tears was about policy and law enforcement, but certainly doesn't make it right. Countless other incidents throughout history tell us the same story. Can we learn from this? Can the council please step in? There are ways to work around this. I can think of at least 5 myself. I really don't think that the state, SLC, Newsom, or Harris really think that it's okay to displace someone over policy enforcement. And there's ways around it to conform. Newsom is giving out tents for people to live in, and here we are making people homeless. There is still safety and security possibilities for us to stay, so it appears that a modification to 15.550 would be required. I hope it's clear by now that 15.550 has many gaping holes in it. For one, crawl will be required. It has been ruled on already. It's just a matter of how much. It's very clear that if any pilings get pulled, the sequel will be required. And I don't know crawl that well myself as far as CEQA aspects of it, but I think if it's a public process, then a CEQA still needs to be done. So surely one of the 5 project managers that worked on the Docktown plan should have known that the project was for a public entity and that it was a project. And to the contrary, State Lands has quoted Jennifer Lucchese has authorized a small number of liveaboards within the marina.
Thank you, Dan. Our next speaker is Mark, and Mark will be followed by Michelle Ross. Mark, are you able to unmute yourself?
All right, can you hear me?
Yeah, sounds great.
Okay. All right, sorry about that.
No problem.
So my name is Mark. I'm a security officer with Dignity Health, and security officers across Dignity Health have suffered immeasurable inequalities. Security officers suffer constant harassment, intimidation by upper management, workplace violence, low staffing, lack of proper protective equipment and our resources, and we have continuous COVID exposures and unequal benefits and pay. For example, the janitorial staff get paid about $6 more per hour than a security officer dealing with the constant influx of behavioral patients in the facilities. You may have seen those touching human kindness commercials. Now, if you were employed by Dignity Health, you would also know about our mission, which refers to our commitment to social justice. Social justice means equality, freedom, fighting against injustices, and to fight for the common good. But management does not uphold this mission with their frontline security workers at the Dignity facilities. Dignity Health's vision states a healthier future for all. As security officers, our healthy future could only start with gaining the respect, equality, and social justice from Dignity Health management throughout their facilities. Dignity Health's values state compassion, inclusion, integrity, excellence, and collaboration. This is all we as security officers are asking for. Dignity Health claims to be committed to these core values. Several hundred security officers across the state are asking for compassion for the security workers and inclusion in the same benefits and programs offered to other coworkers. As frontline workers, we deserve collaboration to work with our employer to give and receive social justice. Today, I'm asking the board to unanimously adopt the resolution supporting the right of security officers at Dignity Health facilities to have their social justice. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Our next speaker is Michelle Ross, and Michelle will be followed by Michael Elliott.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, my name is Michelle Ross, and I work for UHW, and I am calling in support of the security officers at Dignity Health. We believe that Dignity Health should give the security officers the opportunity to make their choice on their own. In our country, workers, not employers, get to decide which union they want to represent them. We ask for your support in backing up these brave security officers as they seek to exercise that choice. These officers have been bravely sharing their stories about the dangerous safety conditions that they suffered in the hospital, including lax COVID-19 protocols and rampant workplace violence that they deal with every day. They have shared their experiences about racial and gender discrimination, and at this time, they want the right to voice their decision and their choice on what union they want to represent them.
Thank you, Michelle. Our next speaker is Michael Elliott, and Michael will be followed by Victoria Lynn. Michael, are you able to unmute yourself? There you go.
How about now? Can you hear me now?
Sounds great.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm Michael Elliott, the Acting Executive Director of the Valley Medical Center Foundation. And hopefully in just a few minutes, you're going to hear from our friends at Bloom Energy about a new event that they are sponsoring, the Bloom Energy Stars and Strides Walk and Run on August 22nd in downtown San Jose. Before they speak, I just wanted to say a few words about why this event matters and how the money raised will make an impact. I think, as you all know, Healthcare workers have been running hard for the past year to keep us all safe from COVID-19. This event is a way for us to give back and to run for them. That's why the Bloom Energy Stars and Strides was created, to say thank you and to honor our local healthcare workers. The money raised by the event will benefit my organization, the Valley Medical Center Foundation. Since the start of the pandemic, the VMC Foundation has led local efforts to secure over 5 million items of donated protective gear to keep Silicon Valley healthcare workers safe and to raise additional funds to support local testing and vaccine efforts. Our work is obviously far from finished, which is why we're very much hoping that you will support the Bloom Energy Stars and Strides event. We have mobile vaccine teams still working very hard to get vaccine available to all. And of course, as a community, we must be ready when the vaccine becomes available to young children or boosters are required. The VMC Foundation will be there to support frontline care providers, but only if we have backing from the community. So I hope you consider putting on your running or walking shoes on August 22nd and joining us. You can register at starsandstridesrun.com. One more time, starsandstridesrun.com. Thank you so much for your time, everyone, and please stay safe.
Thank you, Michael. Our next speaker is Victoria Lynn. Victoria will be followed by Pedro Conseco.
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening, honorary Redwood City Council members. My name is Victoria Lynn. I'm going to be a senior at Mills High School in a couple weeks. I'm a Millbrae resident and a member of the Bay Area Youth Climate Action Team. Companies and even entire countries such as Ireland are now pledging or have already fully divested from fossil fuel companies. Not only is fossil fuel production and consumption a major driver for climate change, but drilling sites are an alarming health hazard for citizens living nearby. We've seen from numerous studies that burning fossil fuels releases pollutants that are directly correlated with early deaths, heart attacks, and respiratory issues. Residents in cities near oil pipelines such as Memphis are currently suffering from various cancers and deaths due to severe asthma as a result of air pollution. While Redwood City thankfully doesn't have to experience the jarring effects of living near one of these sites, the masses of toxic chemicals produced aren't destroyed. Rather, they travel from a place as far as Memphis right to the heart of this city. In 2017, it was reported that a whopping 29% of the Bay Area's air pollution comes from China. As fossil fuel use only continues to increase, our local pollution has only worsened. A Stanford study actually found that during quarantine, with fewer cars on the road, the decrease of air pollution generation saved more lives than the millions lost from COVID-19. I also wanted to acknowledge and thank you for promoting a divestment workshop on the city website, but I feel as though the city itself divesting could be a stronger action of encouragement for citizens and residents to follow in suit. There's always more that can be done when looking for ways to make our cities more environmentally friendly and absolutely zero time to waste. Thank you all for your time and your consideration.
Thank you, Victoria. Our next speaker is Pedro Conseco. Pedro is followed by call-in user 1. Pedro, are you able to unmute yourself? There you
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Hi, this is Pedro Conceição. I'm an organizer with SEIU United Healthcare Workers, and I'm calling in support of agenda item 8A. Sequoia Hospital is a valued asset that provides excellent care to patients in the community. Security officers at Dignity Health facilities throughout the state have bravely shared their stories of conditions that they face while working on the front lines. These conditions include lax COVID-19 protocols, rampant workplace violence, and racial and gender discrimination. While security officers pay far more for their healthcare coverage than their union coworkers at Dignity, their wages are lower and their working conditions are more dangerous. This is an issue of equity, justice, and fairness. In our country, workers, not their employers, get to choose which union will represent them, and there is no legal obstacle to Dignity Health recognizing SEIU UHW as a security officer's exclusive representative. This is why elected officials in jurisdictions throughout the state, including San Francisco, Los Angeles, Long Beach, and other cities, are moving forward with stating their support for officers at Dignity. We call on management to respect the will of the workers by recognizing them as members of SEIU UHW, or at the very least, allow the officers to hold a free and fair election to choose for themselves. I urge the Redwood City Council to take a position in support of the workers' right to join a union and have a voice in their workplace. Thank you.
Thank you, Pedro. Our next speaker is call-in user 1. Call-in user 1 will be followed by Roberto Rivera. Call-in, there you go. Go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Hi, my name is Lisa Van Zevern. I work in Redwood City and I'm a member of SEIU UHW. Workers have a right to join a union and bargain for safe working conditions, job security, and better wage and benefits. Security officers have been on the front lines and are a valued asset to the facility they work in. I want to express support for the security officers at Dignity Health, and I urge the council to vote yes on agenda item 8A. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Our next speaker is Roberto Rivera. Roberto will be followed by Jay Santos.
Hi, good evening.
Hello.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Thank you so much. Good evening to all of you, Mayor Diane Howard, Vice Mayor Giselle Hale, and City Council members. I'm Roberto Rivera. I'm a healthcare worker in a hospital, SUV member, and also a delegate to the San Mateo Labor Council. I'm calling on support of the security officers at Dignity Health facilities, including Sequoia hospitals. We believe that workers deserve the right to bargain their wages, benefits, and conditions of employment with management. It is, in this era, with this pandemic, definitely to give the credit and to empower with the right to choose the union that will actually represent them and defend their rights. We believe that definitely our facilities, our medical centers, and especially Dignity Health and Sequoia, have absorbed a great deal of population in the local area. And guess what? We also are counting, there will be always a security detail to keep us safe. We're also counting as employees that definitely will be the safety that will guard us when we are trying to provide the best health care for our members and the population. So we urge the Redwood City Council to take a position in support of the workers' right to join the union, and please vote yes in agenda item 8A. It is imperative that our security officers have definitely the rights, the wages compensations accordingly, and to be seen with dignity, with a dignifying motion, and actually supporting them. Because, when we feel safe in the facilities, when we actually can feel protected, we also want to have their back for them to be protected as well and have the right to do it.
Thank you, Roberto. Our next speaker is Jay Santos, to be followed by Nicole.
Hello.
Hello.
Oh, hi. My name is John Santos. I'm a security officer at the Sequoia Hospital. Been working there for more than 3 years. Security management, I've been practicing a hostile work environment. They've been harassing, intimidating, and discriminating security officers that work there. One example was me when I got sick last year before COVID. I was sick with a severe flu. I had the doctor's note for a week that was valid for a week. Saturday, I received a call and a text from my manager and my supervisor stating that I was a no-call, no-show. And I informed them that I was still sick, but still they told me to come in to work because they said no one will cover my shift. I came into work. When the charge nurse in the ER saw me, they saw that I was still sick, so I was sent home But ever since, my manager and the security supervisor have been intimidating and bringing me to HR every time they feel so. And every time that I'm in HR, I feel like I'm a criminal. That's how they treat people over there. That's why we need, we need your support to vote yes, to support security officers that work in that hospital. That's it, ma'am.
Thank you, John, very much. Our next speaker is Nicole. Nicole will be followed by Charina and Cecil.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, Nicole.
Wait, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Nicole, and I live in the Bay Area as a rising freshman at Saratoga High School. Ever since I was in kindergarten, my family and I have gone fishing at least once a year, getting on boats and driving away to places around half an hour away from the dock. Every once in a while, however, I see trash floating near the rocks that jut out in the middle of the sea. When I was very young, I saw these pieces of trash and remembered some of the news articles that my teacher at the time had shown me and my classmates. That doesn't belong there, I thought. I was in first grade at the time, so I didn't know what could be done to stop these pieces of trash from staying in the ocean. Plastic debris left in the ocean can cause many sea animals to fall victim to suffocation, starvation, drowning, and be subject to other health effects, which in turn can be passed on from one predator to another and eventually to us. The effects of consuming these animals can lead to many harmful chemicals being put into our digestive system, including many that increase health risks such as organ problems and developmental delays in children. Although I encourage a full ocean cleanup, I want to ask you today to pass a plastic ban bill, and I ask that you enforce it as soon as possible. Thank you for listening to my proposition, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Nicole. Our next speaker is Charina and Cecil, followed by Zoe B.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Great, thank you, Pamela. So my name is Charina Enciso. I'm a shop steward with SEIU United Healthcare Workers, and I'm calling in support of the security officers at Sequoia Hospital. Security officers have reported discrimination, unsafe working conditions, and workplace violence. They deserve to have a voice on the job to bargain with their employer on wages, benefits, and terms and conditions of their employment. I urge the Redwood City Council to support Agenda Item 8A and call on Dignity Health to allow the security officers to join SEIU UHW. Thank you, Pamela.
You're welcome. Thank you, Charina. Our next speaker is Zoe B., followed by Ariel Lucas.
Hello and good evening, honorary Redwood City Council members. My name is Zoe, and I am a resident of Redwood Shores and a rising senior at Carmont High School. I'm really passionate about the environment and climate change, including the aspects of trying to reduce the use of fossil fuels. Fossil fuels are extremely detrimental to not only the planet, but also to humans. In August of 2020, I heard on the news that a vessel crashed into a fragile coral reef super close to Mauritius, a country in East Africa, and started leaking out with highly toxic and heavy oil. This incident, known as the Mauritius oil spill, ended up damaging the island's food system, nature, and the residents' health. The water was contaminated, and a lot of the marine life was killed. After finding out about this unfortunate incident, I felt a wave of different emotions. First off, I was appalled that something like this would let happen. There should have been much better equipment used to transport something as destructive to the ocean as oil. Additionally, I also felt horrible that the country of Mauritius had to go through this. Their economy plummeted as the spill deterred tourism, and the environment was simply just not healthy for quite a bit of time. All this being said, for the sake of the planet's and people's health, I strongly believe that it is a good idea to divest from fossil fuel companies in order to prevent another costly and harmful event like this from happening again. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you consider agendizing divestment to join the multitudes of other companies and cities that have already divested.
Thank you, Zoe. Our next speaker is Ariel Lucas. Ariel will be followed by Rohan Ranjan.
Hello, honorary Redwood City Council members. Thank you for your time and your service to the community. My name is Ariel Lucas, and I am an upcoming junior at Notre Dame High School, as well as a member of the Bay Area Youth Climate Action Team. In addition to my focus on academics and sports, I have a great passion for environmental work combating climate change, which is why I am concerned about the negative effects of single-use plastics on the environment. Plastics not only emit greenhouse gases, which seriously threaten the ability of the global community to keep global temperature rise below 1.5 degrees Celsius, but they also can take thousands of years to decompose and gradually break up into small pieces, contaminating our soil and water in the process because of its harmful chemicals. By 2050, annual emissions could grow to more than 2.75 billion metric tons of CO2 from plastic production, and its greenhouse gas emissions could reach 1.34 gigatons per year by 2030. Therefore, plastics have a huge negative impact on climate change, which is why this topic requires immediate, urgent attention, and is why we need to take action in Redwood City to ban single-use plastics. I believe that the long-term solution is more reusables as it results in less waste. I realize that this transition for many businesses will be challenging, but it will be worth it in the end and help to curb global climate change. For these reasons, I urge you to please agendize a single-use plastic ban so that we can tackle this problem even sooner. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Ariel. Our next speaker is Rohan Ranjan, and Rohan will be followed by call-in user 3.
Thank you, honorary Redwood City Council members, for taking the time out of your day to listen to my comment. My name is Rohan, as I'm going to my freshman year at Bellarmine College Preparatory, and I'm currently a part of Bay Cats. During 7th grade, I read a New Zella article about the Great Pacific Garbage Patch and how there are over 1.8 trillion pieces of plastic that infest these animals' habitat. It was very sad to hear how these animals' marine food consumption and habitat was getting ruined because of this large pile of trash. In addition, throughout my time at middle school, I grew a deep interest regarding the environment around us, which is why I did an experiment in 7th grade relating to a topic involving marine biology. On the other hand, this experiment leads to why I crafted this short comment today, and this is because of the growing problem of microplastics. Microplastics are smaller than other pieces of plastic, as they are less than 5 millimeters long and are hard to see with the bare eye, but they continue to deteriorate the oceans around us, stemming from the breakdown of single-use plastics. Currently, microplastics are consumed by marine animals as a result of storms and winds carrying microplastics into the ocean. In addition, microplastics spread through the ocean food chain, implying the fact that they can find their way into the humans through food, water, and food. Now, how do microplastics harm humans and marine animals? First, their exposure can cause inflammatory wounds, negative effects on metabolism, neurotoxicity, and even increased risks of cancer towards humans. To add on, microplastics alter the behavior of marine animals as they block digestive tracts, which diminishes the urge for them to consume other prey and permutes their feeding behavior, which results in stunted growth and reproduction. Studies have even shown the severity of these microplastics, that they can be found in placentas of pregnant women. Smaller marine animals may have their stomachs stuffed with microplastics, which can cause starvation, leading to a brutal death. Instead of letting these natural forces just go to rest to prevent the spread of the problem, we should look to reduce the use of plastics instead. That is why I strongly urge you to pass the single-use plastic ban today.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Rohan, very much. Our next speaker is call-in user 3. Call-in user 3 will be followed by Amanda.
Hi, good evening. My name is Marcelina Luna, resident of Redwood City, and I'm calling in also in support to Dogtown. I have to say that in all the time I've been listening to City Council speak about the importance of keeping our Redwood City residents housed, keeping our Dogtown liveaboards would most definitely achieve that. I was heartbroken when I learned of Maria, a person who used to live on Dogtown, to be living in one of our Redwood City homeless encampments. Maria had a job and she was the hardest working member of the maintenance staff where I work. Always smiling and so positive all the time. She took so much pride in her job. I remember my boss and I even saying, wow, look at her work so hard. And she's always so happy no matter what she's doing. And she was the most pleasant person all the time. Soon after Maria lost her home, she also lost her job. And so that's how she ended up in our encampments, in which I learned much later. I didn't know that's why I stopped seeing her at work. I want the city council to know that your decisions have a tremendous impact on our working class residents and communities of color. As I have said, the majority of your policies do have a negative impact. Imagine if you were to do that same advocacy for our low-income and non-house population as you do for developers. You change policies for them, you implement changes that were not there to accommodate them. Imagine if you did the same thing for all of our low-income neighborhoods. So please stop the outflow of our taxpayers' money to lawyers, trials, and buyouts, and keep our Dogtown and our neighbors that currently live there. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcelena. Our next speaker is Amanda. Amanda will be followed by Jimmy at BloomEnergy.com.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hello and good evening, Redwood City Council members. My name is Amanda, and I'm a rising freshman at Stanford Online High School, and I'm also a part of BayCats. I wanted to take a few minutes today and talk to you about a current problem that's becoming more and more prevalent: plastic. California alone uses 16 billion plastic bags per year. The main issue with all of this plastic is the dangerous effects it's having on our world. Poorer communities tend to live closer to areas that are heavily impacted by the negative effects of plastic. As a result, they unfairly have to suffer the consequences, such as heavy air pollution due to plastic production and incineration. They are exposed to medical conditions such as asthma that they would have never gotten inflicted with before. When I was around 4 years old, I was hospitalized with severe asthma. I still remember lying in my hospital bed in the dark with tubes around my head, a hole from a straw poked into the back of my hand as I realized it was getting harder to breathe. Almost immediately after I recovered, my brother was also hospitalized with severe asthma, and those weeks at the hospital were some of the worst that my family has ever experienced. For young children to suddenly be exposed to and then contract asthma simply because of the place they live in is perpetuating injustice. They have no control over their own living conditions but are punished for it anyway. And it's not just asthma that these communities are being unfairly exposed to. Plastic producing facilities release toxic chemicals the air, many of them being carcinogenic. There are more than 100 dangerous chemicals in the air pollution from plastic production. The people living near these facilities are less susceptible to cancers and diseases, even though they never would have had in any other circumstances, and they have no way to stop it, as their homes and livelihoods are rooted near these facilities. Plastic pollution threatens communities of regular civilians, and a ban on single-use plastics is the only real way we can solve things. I strongly urge you to pass the ban on single-use plastics by the end of 2021. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you for considering my request.
Thank you, Amanda. Our next speaker is Jimmy Apfel at BloomEnergy.com, and Jimmy will be followed by our last speaker, Adrian Brandt. Jimmy, there you go.
Hi, good evening, Redwood City. My name is Jimmy Apfel, and I'm honored to serve as a Community and Government Relations Coordinator at Bloom Energy, a clean, resilient energy company founded right here in Silicon Valley. As you heard from my associate earlier, Michael Elliott of the Valley Medical Center Foundation, over the past 18 months, we have learned more than ever of the vital role of our frontline hospital and healthcare workers, putting our health before their own throughout the COVID crisis. It's why I'm asking you to join me on August 22nd for our inaugural Stars and Strides community run to support and celebrate our frontline hospital workers and the patients they serve. Our ambitious goals for this event will be much more attainable with your participation. Our financial goal will be to raise and donate $250,000 to the Valley Medical Foundation as they support 3 county hospitals, 14 healthcare clinics, which provide services for more than 1 million of our neighbors annually. Second, our participation goal: 4,000 paid participants in our Silicon Valley 5K run, our Synaptics 10K run, and our HP Incorporated Kids Fun Run. Third, our volunteer goal: 400 caring volunteers to further ensure that our participants have a fun and safe experience. Tonight, we have 3 requests. First, please register you and your family at starsandstrides.run.com. For our elected leaders, please sign up under the California Water Service Elected Official Executive 5K Challenge. Second, please reach out to your own community members. We have a sample text you can consider using to make it easy. Third, we would be honored to work with your professional staff to be included in any online community communications between now and race day. After a challenging 18 months, we have an opportunity to gather our community safely outdoors to celebrate and support our frontline hospital and healthcare workers on August 22nd at Discovery Meadow in San Jose. Please join us and spread the word throughout our communities, and I'll see you at the run. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jimmy. Our last speaker is Adrian Brandt. After Adrian speaks, if you are not able to give your live public comment, you can send your public comment to the council@redwoodcity.org. Go ahead, Adrian. Are you able to unmute your, there you go.
Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yeah, yes, we can.
Thank you. I'd like to speak in support of the closure of Theater Way. I see on the consent calendar there is an item dealing with the closure, putting up mechanically movable bollards, and I'm really excited to see that finally occur, that we have our first official, sort of European style al fresco dining downtown, pedestrian zone, and I am looking forward to, hello?
Adrian, I apologize for interrupting you, but that item is on later in the agenda. Would you like to, we ask you if you could make your comments at that time?
Okay, my mistake. I thought it was on consent. I didn't check back, so I think I've said what I needed to say, though, so thanks. Bye.
Okay, thank you. And that concludes public comment for this portion of the agenda. I will turn it back over to Mayor Howard.
Thank you very much, Ms. Aguilar, and thank you to all of you who came to speak with us this evening. We really appreciate your comments. We're now going to move on to item number 6, which is our consent calendar. These are items that are routine in nature and are approved in one motion. I'd now like to ask Council Member G. He would like to address his conflict on item 6L, the Redwood Shores Landscape Maintenance District. Council Member G.
Thank you, Mayor Howard. Council, I will be recusing myself on item 6L, the Redwood Shores Landscape Maintenance District 1995-1. I live next to the Lido district in which that levy of benefit assessments will be applied to if the council passes this item. Thank you, Mayor Howard.
Thank you. If I did not say 6L, I apologize. It's item 6L. Thank you so much. Moving on to council action, I'd like to see if there's a motion and a second to approve all items on the consent calendar except for 6L.
Hale. Second, Aguirre.
Okay, Vice Mayor Hale, I hear made the motion with a seconded by Council Member Aguirre. Any discussion? Hearing none and seeing none, I'll turn it over to our city clerk to take the roll call, please.
Thank you. We'll start with Council Member Aguirre.
Yes.
Council Member Espinosa Garnica.
Yes.
Council Member G.
Yes.
Council Member Reddy.
Yes.
Council Member Smith.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hale.
Yes.
And Mayor Howard.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. I'd now like to get a motion and a second to approve item 6L.
So moved, Smith.
Moved by Council Member Smith, seconded by?
Second, Espinosa Garnica.
Seconded by Council Member Espinosa Garnica. May I have a roll call, please?
Yes. We will start with Council Member Espinosa Garnica.
Yes.
Council Member Reddy. Council Member Smith.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. Council Member Smith.
Yes.
Council Member Aguirre.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hale.
Yes.
And Mayor Howard.
Yes.
The motion passes with 6 votes. Councilmember G is recused.
Thank you so much. I'll now read all the items that have been approved. The agreement with Intermountain Infrastructure Group, LLC, for the installation of fiber optic facilities in Redwood City. The amendment number 1 to agreement with Stantec Consulting Services Incorporated for the preparation of an environmental impact report for the 1125 Arguello Street Development Project. Amendment number 4 to agreement with Environmental Sciences Associates for California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA, Environmental Impact Report revisions for the Harborview Development Project at 320-350 Bloomquist Street, 19 Seaport Boulevard, and 15 through 30 Stein Am Court. Final acceptance of 2019 pavement overlay project for portions of Chestnut Street, Middlefield Road, Spring Street, and 2nd Avenue. Final acceptance of Community Development Block Grant Funds, or CDBG, for the Curb Ramp Project. Parcel map and associated agreements for the development at 1390 Woodside Road by 1390 Woodside, LLC. Amendment to agreement with Downtown Streets Incorporated. Agreement with Sunlight Giving for information and referral program at the Fair Oaks Community Center. Amendment to agreement with Life Moves as safe site parking operator and community outreach case managers for the city's temporary RV safe parking program. Final acceptance of Magical Bridge Playground construction project. Side letters of agreement with Service Employees International Union Local F521, SEIU, and related amendment to the City of Redwood City's classification and wage and salary plan, and side letter of agreement with Redwood City Management Employees Association. Levy of benefit assessments for fiscal year 2021-22, Redwood Shores Landscape Maintenance District 1995-1. Agreement with Life Moves for a rapid rehousing program for participants in the temporary RV safe parking program. Agreement for professional investment management services with PFM Asset Management, LLC. Agreement with All City Management Services for crossing guard services for fiscal year 2021-22. Approved minutes of June 28, 2021 and July 19, 2021 City Council meetings, and approved claims and checks from July 26, 2021 through August 23, 2021, and the usual and necessary payments through August 23, 2021. Moving on now to item number 7, staff reports. We'll start with 7A, the City Council appointment to the Advisory Redistricting Committee due to withdrawal of a previous District 7 appointee. I'd now like to turn it over to our City Clerk, Ms. Aguilar, and she will introduce this item.
Thank you, Mayor Howard. Good evening to the Mayor and City Council members. Tonight, you're being asked to make an appointment to fill one vacant seat on the Advisory Redistricting Committee, which we are also calling ARC.
I think we need to test your video and your audio to be sure we can hear you. You're frozen on video, Ms. Aguilar.
On audio.
Things like audio and video.
Ms. Aguilar, are you able to speak to us even though you're frozen on the video? We can't hear you at this time. Okay, I think Ms. Aguilar will need to come back in once again. Ms. Dominguez, would you like to step in, or do we want to wait a couple of minutes so that Ms. Aguilar can get some assist? I can't hear you, Ms. Dominguez.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Now I can hear you.
All right. And Pam is rejoining us. And I will take the introduction of the item. Give me one moment. Okay. So tonight, staff recommends that the council appoint current at-large member Daniela Gasparini, who resides in District 7, to fill the vacant District 7 seat, and then to appoint one candidate from the current applicant pool to the at-large seat. Our office reached out to all remaining non-selected candidates to confirm their interest in being considered for appointment to the Advisory Redistricting Committee. 10 of those applicants expressed their continued interest and may be considered for appointment if you proceed with staff's recommendation. That is staff's recommendation. As detailed in the staff report, there are several alternative options. They are as follows. Number one, you may choose to reopen the recruitment for the ARC. However, due to the short duration of the committee and the need to conduct the committee's work on a short time frame to meet legal requirements, initiating another recruitment would make it difficult for the committee to complete its work in a timely manner. You may choose to appoint, number two, you may choose to appoint the sole applicant from District 7, Alexis DiAugustino, as the District 7 representative. However, the current practice is to seek to provide the City Council with multiple candidates for each BCC appointment. And the third alternative is to provide staff with additional feedback or direction. At this time, I'll take any council questions, if there are any.
Ms. Dominguez, thank you so much for that input. I wanted to add, on June 28th, the council appointed 11 members to serve on this committee, 1 to represent each of the 7 council districts, and 4 at-large members. At that time, the City Council authorized use of the current applicant pool to fill any vacancies on the ARC through April 17th, 2022. And prior to the first meeting on July 7th, the District 7 appointee withdrew, creating a vacancy on the committee. And that is why we have come here today. So I hope that's all helpful information for you as we go forward. You've seen the staff recommendation at this time. So I'd like to see if council have any questions or if someone would like to make a recommendation or a motion.
I would like to, Councilmember Aguirre, make a motion for number 1, appoint Danielle Gasparini, current at-large member, Advisory District Committee.
Councilmember Aguirre, this is the city attorney, and I just wanted to mention that there hasn't been an opportunity for public comment.
Okay, then I will hold the motion until we have public comment.
I am happy to take public comment at this time. For all those who would like to give public comment on item 7A, these are the Advisory Redistricting Committee or ARC appointments to the partial term seat ending no later than April 17th, 2022. If you wish to speak on this item at this time, please raise your hand on Zoom. If you're joined by phone, please press *9 to request to speak. I'll give it a few moments for people to queue up. Okay, I don't see any right now. We'll give it a few more seconds. All right, Mayor, I don't see any hands, so I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And thank you, Ms. Ramirez, reminding us we need to have public comment on this particular item. So seeing no public comment, we'll go back to council action. I know Councilmember Aguirre started us off. Would you like to repeat your motion, Councilmember Aguirre?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'm moved to appoint Daniela Gasparini, current at-large member of the Advisory District Committee, to fill the vacant District Seat 7 that will expire no later than April 17, 2022.
And I second. Councilmember Reddy.
And that's been seconded by Councilmember Reddy. Is there any discussion before we vote? Seeing no discussion, I'll turn it over to our city clerk, and she'll facilitate the roll call on this item.
Mayor Howard, and I would love to thank my Assistant City Clerk, Jessica Dominguez, for stepping in while I was having those technical difficulties. I'll take the roll call.
I apologize, everyone. It sounds like Pam has continued technical difficulties, so I am happy to take the roll call vote for the motion.
Thank you, Ms. Dominguez. I appreciate that.
Of course, we'll start with Councilmember Aguirre.
Yes.
Councilmember Espinoza Garnica.
Yes.
Councilmember G.
Yes.
Councilmember Reddy.
Yes.
Councilmember Smith.
Yes, and you're doing a great job, Ms. Minkus.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Smith. Vice Mayor Hale, please.
Yes, and I second that.
Thank you. And Mayor Howard.
Yes, and I triple that.
It
takes a team. It takes a team to make this work.
Thank you so much, and the motion passes unanimously.
Thank you so much. Okay, then now why don't we move on to the second portion, which is appointing one partial term at-large seat on the Advisory Redistricting Committee that will expire no later than April 17th, 2022. And I'd like to turn it over to our City Clerk's office, who will take us through the voting process.
Thank you,
Ms. Dominguez, thank you.
Thank you so much. So the council will now select a candidate to fill the at-large seat just vacated by Ms. Gasparini's appointment to the District 7 seat. As mentioned, there are 10 candidates the council may consider. The appointment will be made by roll call vote. A candidate must receive a majority or 4 votes in order to be appointed. If no candidate receives a majority of votes, or if there's a tie, we will proceed to a next round of voting. When I call your name, please state the name of one candidate you wish to appoint to the Advisory Redistricting Committee. You may state one name only.
And excuse me, Ms. Dominguez, when the council member says the person they're choosing, would you mind repeating that for the audience, just
Absolutely.
so that we're sure to hear it twice?
Happy to.
Thank you.
And the candidate to receive 4 affirmative votes from the council will be appointed. And so the 10 candidates that are available for consideration for appointment tonight, starting with District 1, is Rumika Chaudhry and Vanessa Correa. From District 2, we have David Geisert, Fabian Lubai, Alyssa Zaida. From District 3, we have Robert Beard and Brett Weber. From District 4, we have Hamza Rajaraman. From District 5, we have Brian Beck. I should note there are no candidates in District 6. And from District 7, we have Alexis DiAugustino. So we'll start with the voting. As I call your name, you'll state the name of the one candidate you wish to appoint. And we will start with Councilmember Espinoza Garnica.
I'd like to vote for Vanessa Correa.
Thank you. Councilmember Espinoza Garnica has selected Vanessa Correa from District 1. Councilmember G.
Rumika Chaudhry.
Thank you, Councilmember G. You have selected Rumika Chaudhry, also from District 1. Councilmember Reddy.
Brett Weber.
Thank you. Councilmember Reddy has selected Brett Weber, from District 3. Councilmember Smith.
Rumika Chaudhry.
Thank you. Councilmember Smith has selected Rumika Chaudhry from District 1. Councilmember Aguirre.
Yes, I select Hamza Rajaraman.
Councilmember Aguirre has selected Hamza Rajaraman from District 4. Vice Mayor Hale.
Hamza Rajaram.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Hill has selected Hamza Rajaraman from District 4. And Mayor Howard.
Brett Weber.
Mayor Howard has selected Brett Weber from District 3. Give me one moment, please. 2, 1, 2, 2. Okay. Next round, right? Thank you, everyone, for your patience. We are going to move into a second round of voting as we have not received a majority vote for any candidate. Okay, so I am going to start with Council Member G, please.
Great, thank you. Rumika Chaudhry.
Thank you. Council Member G has selected Rumika Chaudhry from District 1. Council Member Reddy.
Brett Weber.
Council Member Reddy has selected Brett Weber from District 3. Council Member Smith.
Hamza Ramjara. Oh, sorry. Raja Kaman. Sorry.
Thank you, Council Member Smith. And Council Member Smith has selected Hamza Rajaraman from District 4. Council Member Aguirre.
Hamza Rajaraman.
Councilmember Aguirre has selected Hamza Rajaraman from District 4. Councilmember Espinosa Garnica, please.
Rumika Chaudhry.
Councilmember Espinosa Garnica has selected Rumika Chaudhry from District 1. And I'm sorry, Vice Mayor Hill.
Hamza Rajaraman.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Hill has selected Hamza Rajaraman from District 4. And Mayor Howard, please. Sorry, Mayor Howard. You're on mute.
I'm sorry, pressed the wrong button. Brett Weber, please.
Thank you. Mayor Howard has selected Brett Weber from District 3. So it looks like we will proceed to another round of voting as we have not gotten any candidates with a majority or 4 votes. So now we are in round 3. And this time we're going to start with Council Member Reddy.
Brett Weber.
Thank you. Council Member Reddy has selected Brett Weber from District 3. Council Member Smith.
Rumika Chaudhry.
Thank you. Council Member Smith has selected Rumika Chaudhry from District 1. Council Member Aguirre.
Hamza Rajaraman.
Thank you. Council Member Aguirre has selected Hamza Rajaraman from District 4. Council Member Espinosa Garnica, please.
Rumika Chaudhry.
Thank you. Councilmember Espinosa Garnica has selected Rumika Chaudhry from District 1. And Councilmember G.
Rumika Chaudhry.
Thank you. Councilmember G has selected Rumika Chaudhry from District 1. Vice Mayor Hill.
Rumika Chaudhry.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Hill has selected Rumika Chaudhry from District 1. And Mayor Howard, please.
Brett Weber.
Thank you. Mayor Howard has selected Brett Weber from District 3. And at this time, we have received a majority of votes for Rumika Chaudhry from District 1. And Rumika Chaudhry will be the appointee for the at-large seat to the Advisory Redistricting Committee. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. At this point, I think that we can move on to item 7B. Am I correct? Okay. 7B, resolution accepting a grant award of $270,000 from the Redwood City Library Foundation for the Library Makerspace Project, an award of contract for the Redwood City Public Library Makerspace Project. Our Library Director, Derek Wolfgram, will give the presentation.
Good evening, Mayor Howard, Vice Mayor Hale, council members. I'm delighted to have the opportunity to make this presentation this evening. The outline of what I'll be covering, background on the project and the community engagement that we have conducted, some financial information related to the project, information on our construction bidding process, some recommended actions for you, and an opportunity for questions and answers. the three questions for you to consider during the presentation. Do you have any questions about the community engagement that led to the Makerspace project? Do you have any questions on the project amenities that will be included? And do you have any questions on the construction bid process or the award? So the library service priorities have called for this project for a couple of years. Our service priorities for the library are divided into 5 different community aspirations. One of those is equity, and under the equity aspiration, one of our action steps was to create a new makerspace technology lab co-working space to meet the express needs of community members of all ages at the downtown library. This project, as I hope you'll see, aligns very closely with the council priorities for children and youth and for economic vitality. This project will convert the existing computer lab space into a makerspace, which will also contain a co-working space component based on the results of our community engagement. Even pre-COVID, the current downtown library computer lab was used much less frequently than it was even 5 years ago, given alternatives such as the use of wireless technology for customers to use their own devices in the library, and a laptop lending kiosk that allows laptops to be borrowed with a library card for use anywhere in the building. The design will also add counters outside the space so that we will be able to continue to provide internet access on library computers for any individuals who need that service. Next slide, please. Thank you. So what is a makerspace? A makerspace is a collaborative workspace designed for making, learning, exploring, and sharing. Makerspace programs and tools enable people of all ages and backgrounds to learn skills, build self and agency, create positive change in the community. Makerspace is a powerful addition to our community that provides equitable, universal access to free high-tech and low-tech tools and programming for entrepreneurs, tinkerers, artists, small business owners, youth, and more, as well as fostering science, technology, engineering, art, and math education opportunities. Next slide, please. So this project began in 2017. Sarah Latora, who's the division manager for customer experience at the library, attended a training workshop called the Research Institute for Public Libraries, which is a boot camp style event for public library workers to learn practical methods for gathering, analyzing, and using data for planning, management, and communicating impact. So Sarah attended that institute in 2017, needed to have a sample project that was to be used for the project, and a makerspace was what she came up with. And so based on the results of her study at the Ripple Institute, we incorporated the makerspace into our service priorities in 2019 and asked our partners with the Redwood City Library Foundation to take on their most ambitious fundraising effort that they have done in over a decade. During 2019, we did some community survey work that I'll share the results with you in a moment. In 2020, we began our planning meetings with Mark Schatz of ELS Architecture and Urban Design. Folks may be familiar with Mark as the architect for the Red Morton Community Center, so his ties to Redwood City go back quite a ways. But actually, since that project, he has actually been one of the most sought after library architects in the state of California, and we are delighted to have the opportunity to work with him. We designed 4 community workshops, and fortunately, our last community workshop was held on March 5th of 2020. So right before everything shut down, we had actually completed our community engagement process. Throughout 2020, the Library Foundation continued their fundraising efforts, and they secured the last funding that was needed for phase 1, which is the construction of the project, earlier this year. And we've now completed the construction bid process, and anticipated opening for the space will be in October if everything goes according to plan. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, we did both a community survey as well as some community meetings to give people the opportunity first to weigh in on what they would like to see in the makerspace, and then a little bit about the layout and how it could be designed and how the elements of the space could relate to each other. The highest interest categories that came out of both of those processes were 3D modeling and printing, handcraft activities, workshop equipment like a vinyl cutter or laser cutter, digital photography and video production, and robotics and electronics activities. As far as how people wanted to interact with the space, there was a sort of a combination of people looking for formal classes, kind of classroom style, one-on-one lessons, and just drop-in opportunities to be able to use the equipment. And of course, we also identified a number of opportunities to work with partners on activities that could happen in this space. So we had a very high interest in the maker kind of activities taking place during after school, evening, and weekend hours, and also a strong interest in a co-working space for people that are with small businesses or startups and just need a workroom with strong Wi-Fi where they can work individually or in groups. And I'll talk a little bit about how the space will accommodate that during kind of daytime business hours in a moment. So next slide, please. The amenities we're planning to include in the space right now include 3D printers and a laser cutter, digital design and modeling software to allow people to have access to some high-end software that they may not be able to afford at home, sewing machines for sewing and handcraft activities, robotics tools and basic electronics, handcraft tools and supplies. A sink is a new addition to the space for wet crafts like felt work, as well as cleanup when we have kids' craft programs in there. The space will include a small soundproofed video conferencing room, which could also be used as a podcasting studio with the audio equipment that we'll have there. And then kind of the core of the maker space and the co-working space is just a really modular, flexible space full of height adjustable tables that can be configured in all sorts of different ways, seating to accommodate those, a lot of things for displaying information either manually or digitally. So whiteboards all over the place, wall-mounted flat screens, strong Wi-Fi, and drop-down power cords that come from the ceiling. So the space can be arranged in any number of ways to meet any number of needs for collaborative activities that take place there. Next slide, please. We have a number of partnerships that we've already identified, and we're hearing about more every day as we're actually moving into construction. There are lots of people contacting us that are very excited about this project. Just a few of the folks that we have already talked to are the Renaissance Entrepreneurship Center, who are very interested in workshops to make the equipment and how to use it available to the budding entrepreneurs that are in that program. We always work closely with our school districts on the STEAM activities and programs for youth. Local arts groups have been big supporters of this effort and were really helpful in the community engagement process about helping us get the word out to a really diverse cross-section of the community. We've worked with the San Mateo County Office of Sustainability already on Fix-It clinics, as well as a few other activities. For people who aren't familiar with Fix-It clinics, people can bring in small objects or appliances that are not working, and they get to work with a maker coach who will help the person fix the item themselves. So this is a really great for the environment, keeping things out of landfills, as well as empowering people to fix their own stuff. And then, of course, there are many, many more. We've talked to the Geological Society. We've talked to a needlework group. There's a ton of community groups that are really interested in what we have to offer in this space. So next slide, please. Really quickly, as far as the budget for the project, you can see the total cost will be about $620,000. There was seed money to start things off from the Capital Improvements Program budget for City of Redwood City, $165,000. So far, the Redwood City Library Foundation has raised $340,000 plus toward the project. And for anybody who's hearing about this and thinks it's wonderful and is interested in supporting the project, the Redwood City Library Foundation still has a goal of about $113,000 that we need to raise to get to phase 2. So encourage you to reach out to Redwood City Library Foundation or myself if anyone is interested in supporting the project. We've had some great support from a number of groups so far, most notably the Saga Foundation, who's actually given us $180,000 toward this project, which was an incredibly generous gift. And David Bartashuk and his team at the Saga Foundation are really, they've really bought into the vision for the makerspace and see how a number of their other fundees could participate. So they've been on board from day one. California Public Utilities Commission gave us a good-sized grant, part of which is actually to be used for equipping the space, and part of which is actually to be used for programming once we get it open. So some hiring instructors and that sort of thing. So it didn't count toward the construction or equipment goals, but it's still actually really helpful to us in moving the project forward. And then Sunlight Giving, Bothine Foundation, and Chan Zuckerberg Initiative have also been supporters so far. Next slide, please. So we received 4 bids by the deadline of July 7th, and the bid opening was conducted that day via Zoom. The low bid of $333,707 was submitted by Zone 4 Construction Incorporated, and it was 6% lower than the engineer's estimate of $355,000 for the project, so we were excited about that. Staff recommends awarding the contract to Zone 4 Construction, Inc., since they are the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, and construction's anticipated to begin in August and conclude within 45 calendar days. Next slide, please. So the recommended actions before you tonight are to approve and authorize the city manager to execute the contract with Zone 4, and also to accept the grant from the Redwood City Library Foundation for $270,000 toward the library makerspace construction and make the requisite budget adjustments. So that is the end of my formal presentation. I thank you for the time this evening, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Wolfgram. First of all, thank you for coming this evening and sharing this wonderful, wonderful news. I went to your first meeting, I believe, when you had it with the public, and I saw the enthusiasm of everyone in the room, and I was thinking, how are you ever going to harness all this energy and all these requests and make everyone happy? And I see you really are working hard to do that, to do just that. I want to thank Sarah Latora very much for being a leader in this. And I also want to thank Mark Schatz, because I worked with him when we did the design build for the Red Morton Community Center a few years ago. And I so enjoyed working with him. He is excellent, and he's so good at community engagement. I am so glad that he's been picked once again to work on one of our community, our capital improvement projects. This one's very, very exciting. So I would like to see if any council has any clarifying questions before we go to public comment. And seeing none, if anyone would like to speak, they can raise their hand at this time, and I'm going to turn it over to our city clerk to handle public comment.
Thank you, Mayor Howard. Now is the time for public comment on item 7B. This is the library makerspace project. The instructions for public comment are on the screen. Please raise your hand at this time and keep your hand raised so that we could see how many speakers we have. If you've called in, please press *9 to raise your hand. We'll give it a minute. Looks like we have one speaker. So I will call the name of our one speaker, who will have 2 minutes to speak. The timer will begin when you start speaking. And our first and only speaker on this item is Lisa Hicks-Dumansky.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Lisa.
Thank you. Well, I'm so excited. I'm Lisa Hicks-Dumansky. I'm the Executive Director of the Redwood City Library Foundation, and we feel like this is a huge milestone that we got to the phase 1 fundraising. And I just want to second everything that Derek said about this exciting community resource that's imminent. And also to just give an invitation to the community, we are forming a community advisory group for people who are interested in the makerspace, who would like to learn more about it and help us promote it in the community and get to our last bit of fundraising. So I invite you to contact the foundation. Don't really see a chat for me to put my contact information, but you can find the foundation, the Redwood City Library Foundation, online, and just connect with us. Click any info link and you'll get to us, and let us know if you're interested in becoming a community advisor to the whole project. We would really appreciate the community support and engagement. Thank you.
Yeah, I think I emphasized, but I should just emphasize one more time what incredible partners the Redwood City Library Foundation have been in this project, kind of going above and beyond, not only with the fundraising, but with the research and with the connections with the community. It's really been a terrific partnership, and been very grateful to Lisa and her board and the team for their leadership in helping us get to the point where we're here tonight.
Derek, thank you so much for saying that. We're very grateful to the Library Foundation for all the work that they do and their leadership. And I would say if you go on Redwood City's website, www.redwoodcity.org, and on the search bar on the homepage, you could put in Makerspace, I would imagine, and it probably will take you to additional information and contact information for Lisa Hicks-Dumansky. Would you like to add to that, Derek? Was that correct?
Yeah, I think that is correct. That will that'll take you to some information, and tonight's presentation will be uploaded there shortly as well.
The Fix-It Clinic is especially intriguing to me. I may be there a lot. I'd like to see now we have council discussion, and I'll start with Council Member Smith.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mayor. I just want to say that I am super excited for this project. I've told a few people this over the course of the last 2 years when I was running for council and being on the Planning Commission, but the library was probably the first place that I found myself in Redwood City, just trying to get to know the community, trying to find a place that I felt, welcomed me in as a new member of the community. And so I'm just so excited that the downtown library is going to have this facelift, so to speak. It's going to invite a whole host of other new members of the city, existing members of the city, and those who just are interested in engaging into its doors. So I'm super excited about this. Thank you so much for all of your hard work, Derek and Lisa, in making this happen. I'm super excited about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Member Smith. Vice Mayor Hale?
Well, I'll just come right along and echo the excitement. What can I say? I mean, these are the types of features that you see in elite private schools, and it's really exciting that this kind of feature is going to be available to the entire community. And I especially love that it is in the library, because I just know that our staff is going to work to make it multi-generational. I have this amazing vision of, seniors working with kids and everybody learning from each other, their crafts. I've actually looked at some of the Fix-It shops online and what they do, and they're teaching people how to repair and reuse items instead of throw them out and buy new ones, which is something we could all learn to do. So sign me up for all of it. I'll be there. And I just can't wait to see what you and your team do with this, Derek. And I'm so grateful that this is happening. And thank you to the foundation and to all of the sponsors who made this possible. We're really going to enjoy this as a community.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Hale. Council Member Reddy?
Just to echo again, all of these, I am so excited. Over the last few years, I have heard from small startups that their Wi-Fi has gone down and they're in trouble, and the first place they go is to the library so that they can continue their work. So now they're going to have the state-of-the-art space, and this is just one more reason why our Redwood City Library receives national recognition, right? It's just amazing, and I'm so proud. And I personally have a portable mic that I need help fixing. So I will be there, and I'll just add it to the list of things that I need to help. I need to fix myself. I will learn to fix it myself with a little bit of help. Thank you so much. Great presentation. I'm so excited. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Reddy. Councilmember Espinoza Garnica.
Hi. So I also just wanted to say my thanks, my appreciation, share my admiration for our library department and the work that keeps going on over there. And I guess one thing I wanted to highlight, because my colleagues have highlighted so much already, that I think I find unique, is that this is a STEAM program that has such things like sewing machines. It's just such a variety of tools and mediums to work with, which is such an honor to also provide for the public. We're going to see all types of work coming out of the library and the public, getting to use some of the finest mediums to work with. So it's such a great thing to see, and I'm really pleased with all the work that's been going into this. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilmember Espinoza Garnica. Councilmember Aguirre.
Mayor. Derek, thank you for this amazing presentation. I remember when we opened up the computer lab, that space for teens, and how important it was at the time, and how things have evolved, and having something like this, I think, is such a benefit to our community. I love what Vice Mayor Hale said, that it could be multi-generational. I'll be there helping to sew. I'm an avid sewer. Can't wait to see things happening, but I also want to bring things to get fixed as well. So I think this was a great project that was done. I want to thank Sarah for bringing this innovation to our city. And we've seen how this has taken off for so many youth and folks in our community, that it will be just such a benefit. And I love what we've been able to do with that space in our library. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Aguirre. Any other council comments?
Mayor Howard, if I may chip in.
Sure, Councilmember G.
And I'll be brief. Ditto, congratulations, thank you, and I love the sewing machines.
Thank you. I was wondering, I know that this is a unique space, and it's in our main library. I was wondering, will there be opportunities, let's say maybe you have a special demonstration or speaker about to do something on the sewing machine. Would there be a possibility of having it be zoomed to our other libraries so that people who are interested could just take a seat and watch as it's shown on Zoom as it's being held at the main library? Has there been any discussion about that possibility of sharing information?
I think at this point, everything that the library does, we're sort of looking at the hybrid options for how to connect people. Obviously, this is one of the things that's come to us from the pandemic that is going to be sticking around, that especially in terms of equitably reaching communities, people that may have difficulties with childcare or transportation or other difficulties actually getting to the library, that providing a virtual option for participation is something that we can do. So yeah, that's definitely something we'll be looking into. And we've also begun having some conversations. We want to get the makerspace rolled out and see how it goes first, but possibly we can have a mini version of that might come to live in the Shaberg Library basement space that has been used as a homework center, and we're kind of in the process of exploring ways to open that up and have that space be useful for all kinds of different things, whether it be a public meeting space or whether it be a place for children's programs, or whether it might even have a couple of the makerspace amenities in there. So yeah, we're already thinking about expansion opportunities and ways to get these services to be more widely accessible. But first, we gotta get it done at the downtown library.
I agree, Mr. Wolfgram. I was going to say also, you might share all this information with the county since they've taken over the operations of the Fair Oaks Library. They may want to put up a big screen with Zoom so that they can tap into classes or presentations that you might have, or they may decide to do a makerspace over there in Fair Oaks in the future. So it's information we can share. But once again, it shows us why our library gets national recognition. You're always thinking outside the box. You're always thinking about the community, and can't thank you enough. On behalf of council, thank you all so much.
Thank you for those suggestions and for all the kind words. Much appreciated. See you at the grand opening.
Absolutely. Okay, moving on. Oh, nope, we've got a council action here. So we have 2 items to vote on: adopting a resolution and approving and authorizing the city manager to execute the contracts. So do I have someone who'd like to make that motion?
I'd like to make that motion.
Oh, everybody wants to make that motion. Okay. So I think I heard Councilmember Aguirre for sure, and then Councilmember Reddy. Is that correct as a second?
Okay.
Okay. And a roll call, please.
Start with Councilmember G.
Yes.
Councilmember Reddy.
Yes.
Councilmember Smith.
Yes.
Councilmember Aguirre.
Yes.
Councilmember Espinosa Garnica.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hale.
Yes.
And Mayor Howard.
Absolutely.
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very, very much. Moving on to item 7, close a portion of Middlefield Road, otherwise known as Theater Way, and purchase surface-mounted sliding bollards for the Theater Way Safety Improvement Project. Transportation Manager Jessica Manzi will be giving the presentation. Ms. Manzi?
Thank you very much. Good evening, Mayor Howard, Vice Mayor Hale, and members of the City Council. Tonight, I'll be talking to you about the proposal to close Theater Way to most vehicular traffic. Here's an outline of my presentation tonight. I'll try to be pretty brief, starting with an introduction about why we're proposing this project, then review the design criteria, highlight the different alternatives that we considered for implementing the street closure and what we recommend. Then we'll outline the outreach that we did and finish up with the schedule of next steps. So these are the questions to keep in mind as I make my presentation, whether you have questions about why or how we are proposing to close Theater Way and whether you support the closure. Well, I'm sure you are all very familiar with Theater Way. This is an aerial image that shows the area we're talking about. Technically, this is Middlefield Road between Broadway and Winslow Street, but we typically call it Theater Way. It was built when the theater complex was redeveloped, and the street was designed to be a shared street, a place where drivers would be traveling slow enough to safely mingle with pedestrians. While this worked most of the time, there have been enough instances with people driving faster than appropriate, and when people walking, and especially since we have so many children out there, who really aren't paying attention to their surroundings to make this safe. As we've demonstrated during the pandemic and during the construction of 815 Hamilton, closing the street has multiple benefits. It increases safety for people using the street, supports the recovery of adjacent businesses by fostering activity and creating more usable space for dining, and it creates more civic space for special events. So consistent with the City Council's strategic priority of transportation, with its focus on traffic safety, the purpose of this project is to increase safety on and the use of Theater Way by closing Middlefield Road to most vehicles, making it a more pleasant place to walk, dine outside, and enjoy the downtown. Theater Way has some unusual conditions which have influenced the project. As a connector between the Caltrain station and the Fox building to the west and downtown and the county complex to the east, there are a lot of people walking. This activity is also driven by popular destinations like the movie theater and restaurants that are on Theater Way. It's also a unique street. It's pretty narrow because it was designed as a one-way street, but also the road surface is flush on one side of the street and has steps on the other. So this complicates construction of a barricade. And the Jefferson parking garage extends underneath Theater Way, and the reinforced concrete structure is inches below the street surface. Closer to Broadway, there are underground utilities that could conflict with any subsurface barrier system. So practically speaking, we need to provide access to the street for maintenance purposes and emergency vehicles. Businesses across from the theater are largely landlocked and require some ongoing access to the mid-block service alley that's shown in the picture to the right.
These site conditions, observations of how the street is used, and discussions with the businesses and service providers informed the development of key design criteria for how the street could be closed. So given the volume of people in the area and the number of special events, the police department established the need for barriers to be crash resistant, so that someone driving a vehicle couldn't intentionally or unintentionally hit people that are walking on Theater Way. Providing access for those who need it while restricting those who don't was another key consideration. People need to be able to freely flow in and out of the street. On a more limited basis, maintenance access is needed, whether it's for Recology to pick up garbage and recycling, or for public works vehicles to install lights or clean the street. The least frequent, but perhaps the most important need, is access for the fire department, who has limited access to some of the buildings and relies on Theater Way to fight fires. As a key feature of downtown, we heard from many stakeholders, from the Transportation Mobility Subcommittee to the Redwood City Improvement Association and the Downtown Business Group, that the appearance of the barrier system should be compatible with the aesthetic of the street and downtown. And finally, we have to consider cost in deciding how best to use city funds. A variety of devices were considered to close Theater Way to private vehicles. These images show examples of the possible approaches, which include just using signage, barricades and delineators, passive bollards, planters, gates, and a system that's called an active wedge. On the next slides, we have images of an active bollard system. This example from Virginia shows the bollards blocking the street when they're closed on the left and how they move off to the side of the street when they're open on the right. This simulation shows what an active bollard system would roughly look like on Theater Way. All of the barrier options were compared against our design criteria outlined earlier to identify our preferred alternative. Ultimately, the active horizontal bollard systems were deemed to best address our design criteria. These systems provide the safety need that we've identified. They have the flexibility to allow access to users who need it while preventing access by those who don't. It won't damage the underground garage. It fits with the look and feel of Theater Way in downtown, and it's permeable for people who aren't in vehicles. So the system hits all of our key design criteria, but one downside is that we were only able to find one company with relevant experience who manufactures such a system, and only one country distributes the system. So this is the basis for our staff's recommended request for the authority to make a sole source purchase. Over the course of the project, staff has engaged with key stakeholders to inform our design and recommendations tonight. Early on, we received input from the Transportation Mobility Subcommittee, RCIA, and the DBG on the design criteria for the barrier system. After identifying the preferred alternative as the active horizontal bollard system, we got concurrence and support from RCIA and the DBG. In addition to providing feedback on the project, at its March 10th meeting, the RCIA board committed up to $225,000 towards the cost of the project. All of the businesses on Theater Way were notified about the proposed closure, and staff has not received any concerns about the change. While Theater Way was closed for construction and periodically during the pandemic, most of the complaints staff received focused around the barriers being moved by unauthorized users, or when the barriers were not put back after being moved. The likelihood of these issues persisting with the new system are much lower. After tonight's meeting, if approved, we would proceed with purchasing the bollard systems. Due to supply chain disruption, the vendor has indicated that there's an estimated 5-month lead time for the system. While we're waiting for the manufacturing and delivery of the bollards, we will advertise, bid, and award a contract to install the bollard systems. Depending on the cost of the contract, that may return for your action towards the end of the year. If the bollards arrived as currently estimated, we expect a 1-month construction period in January of next year. As outlined in the staff report, we're recommending 3 actions tonight. The first is to approve the closure of Theater Way, and the other 2 authorize a sole source purchase of the active horizontal bollard systems from Intellimar Incorporated. At this time, I'd be happy to answer any clarifying questions that you might have about what's been presented or the proposed actions tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Manzi. I have one question. Could you explain, or maybe our city attorney can explain, why we need 5 votes for that one individual item? If you go back 1 slide, please. We need 5 members of the council to vote. So could someone explain why you need 5 when ordinarily we would just need a simple majority?
So I'm happy to take that. The city's purchasing ordinance typically requires a public process for identifying the proper purchasing through bidding, and that typically secures the lowest price for the city to be purchasing, let's say in this case, the bollard system. When the purchasing ordinance, although it has your standard requirements, does allow for flexibility when the city feels like it can actually procure a system in a better way. In this case, staff had determined that that this was a sole source, meaning that they couldn't move forward with going forward with a competitive bidding process, and therefore were seeking that the city council suspend the requirements for this equipment, really because of the special nature of the bollard system. And of course, I think Ms. Manzi could probably describe that a little bit better, but she did a good job of already explaining what this bollard system does.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And because of that, that we are doing something out of the ordinary, it requires a 5-member of the city council vote as opposed to a simple majority.
That is correct. While a typical purchase would take a simple majority, this is an extra effort that would require a supermajority of the council.
Thank you. I appreciate the explanation. Ms. Manzi, would you have anything else you'd like to add before we go to any clarifying questions and public comment?
I do not.
Thank you so much. You explained it very well. I can't wait to see it in action. Okay, now, does council have any clarifying questions? Seeing none, I'm going to turn it over to our city clerk for public comment.
Mayor Howard, I just had a quick question.
I'm sorry, I flipped over too quickly. Councilmember
No, that's quite
G.
all right. Thank you, Mayor Howard. Ms. Manzi, my apologies for not asking this earlier. I'm always a little bit concerned with this single manufacturer. I understand, I looked this product up on the, just ask Google and stuff pops up. My interest is that if something needs maintenance or extra parts, are we able to get them? And are we, is this a product going to last in terms of being manufactured for a while? Because we've had the experience with the pedestrian crosswalk flashers in ground and the functional obsolescence that came with it. This is a great idea. Theater Way was envisioned to one day potentially be closed. I just don't want us to be caught where we collectively purchase, install, and then all of a sudden we can't get parts for it.
Yes, there are great questions and definitely something we want to avoid and an issue when you're dealing with a single manufacturer. For that actual response, I'm going to call on Paolo Baltar, who's the engineer that's been designing the project and did a lot of this background research. Paolo, what can you share about what you learned about the manufacturer?
Sure. Good evening, council members. This is Paolo Baltar. I'm an assistant engineer with the Community Development and Transportation Department. Yes, I do understand the concern, but this would be a potential issue no matter what vendor or product was selected, in that these types of systems typically don't have interchangeable parts. So the reason that staff is recommending this particular solution is partially because this vendor has demonstrated capability in other jurisdictions, and that we've seen working installations, and in looking into the background of the manufacturer and vendor, they seem to have a good reputation for being able to provide working systems, and their track record goes back years, which is one of the reasons why we believe this is a suitable and appropriate system to install on Theater Way.
Great, thank you for your answers. My probably gentle advice would be, if council approves this, don't just purchase the bollards, but purchase the bollards plus a couple spare parts.
Great
Thank
advice.
you, Mayor Howard.
I would agree with that, Councilmember G. Thank you for bringing that up. Thank you, Mr. Baltar, for your explanation. I will now turn it over to our city clerk, who will take public comment.
Thank you, Mayor Howard. Now is the time for public comment on item 7C. This is the closure of Middleville Road, Theater Way, and the purchase of the surface-mounted sliding bollards. The instructions for public comment are on the screen. We ask you to please raise your hand at this time and keep your hand raised so that we can see how many speakers we have. If you joined by phone, please press *9 to raise your hand. Okay. It looks like we have 2 speakers. Each speaker will have 2 minutes to speak, and the timer will start when you begin speaking. Our 2 speakers are Isabella Chu, and Isabella will be followed by Olia Krashnik.
Good evening, Council. Certainly, this is a very exciting initiative and really beautifully presented. And I thought one thing that was really interesting is the complaints about the removal of the barriers on Theater Way are very consistent with the kinds of complaints that we've heard in our neighborhoods when people have removed the barriers for the slow streets. And I think what this project really demonstrates is that people really want places where they can be free of where they can walk and bike and just kind of be safely without having to worry about being hit or even bothered with noise or exhaust from a car. I hope that this is an exemplar for many, an expansion of such an area in days to come, and in other parts of our city where we can have places where people can safely exist without having to worry about traffic. So just wanted to offer my support and excitement about the project, and it sounds like a fantastic solution. Thanks.
Thank you, Isabella. Our next and last speaker is Olia Krashnik.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good evening, council members and staff. Thank you so much for the presentation. Any members of the community who are listening in, thanks for staying this long to listen to this item that I feel is very important. I also wanted to voice my support for the restriction to vehicular traffic on Theater Way. I actually hope we look for more opportunities within our city to reclaim some of our streets for humans. I think we've seen a lot of success with some of the, I'm going to call it testing we've done through COVID. And I am certainly one that, enjoys outdoor dining along Broadway in addition to Theater Way. So if there's future opportunities to do something similar in other streets in downtown and elsewhere in our city where we have street-facing retail, I certainly encourage you to look at those opportunities. I had one, maybe it's a quick question, and it has to do with cost of the bollard system. I saw in the staff report that there was a desire to protect from vehicular traffic entering this area, and it certainly makes sense on the Broadway side, but I'm not sure if there is even a place where somebody could gain that much speed on the Winslow side. And so if there was a cost-saving opportunity there to put something in place that maybe even restricts some of the pedestrian activity, it's kind of the end of that usable area, it may not be such a detriment. So I'm just curious if that was looked at. Thank you.
Thank you, Alia. That concludes public comment on this item.
Thank you very much, Ms. Aguilar, for doing the public comment. Uh, I'm not sure if there's an answer to the question that was just raised at the end, uh, but maybe Ms. Manzi, did you hear the question?
Sure. Yes. Generally, in our assessment, we feel pretty strongly that we need to have these active barriers at both ends of the street, because it was really, before it was closed, you had vehicles coming off of Winslow to drive on Theater Way, and that's where we did run into situations of them going faster than they should have on the street. And definitely during the pandemic, multiple occurrences of people driving around the barricades that were there. So I think we really need a system on both ends to prevent people from behaving badly, as it were.
Thank you. Exactly. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. So now we'll move on to council questions. Vice Mayor Hale.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to offer comment versus questions. Is that all right?
Sure.
Fantastic. Well, I'm going to offer my strong support for this project. I am so delighted to finally see this in front of council. For those of you who've been watching this for a long time, you will recall this was already in the queue, and then COVID hit, and then we had to put it on pause. And I think that this is an incredibly important first step towards realizing some of our Vision Zero goals around safety. I have met some of my dearest friends in Redwood City on Theater Way, other families with children who use the space almost as if it were another park, hanging out, buying coffee and pastries and just talking. It is where some of my best memories in Redwood City have taken place. But it is also where I have seen exactly what Ms. Manzi was just describing, where a division was kept open and a confused driver drove through with children right there in the street, which is incredibly scary. And with diners and just enjoying their meals, thinking that they have that safety and that protection. So this is, to me, overdue. The time is now. I'm very appreciative of the additional funding and support of the RCIA. I'm appreciative of the encouragement of the Downtown Business Group. I understand the technical challenges, and I really do appreciate Councilmember G's concerns. This was actually a committee that I was on with Councilwoman Reddy when I first joined the council, and we looked at all the available options. And it's very difficult because there is a parking structure right below, and so you have very little bit of space to permeate and to work with. So this was really the only viable solution. I think it's going to do a lot, and I hope it's just the beginning. There is so much more we could do for pedestrian safety in our downtown so that everybody can enjoy the downtown, enjoy their time, spend their money, and continue to make Redwood City that destination. So it has my strong support, and I want to say thank you to staff for all their work on this.
Thank you. Councilmember Espinoza-Garnica.
I'd like to second Vice Mayor Hale's comments and statements. I am greatly in favor of just expanding more pedestrian-only spaces, especially where it's smart, centrally located by transit and by many of our, very active businesses. I think it'd be great to expand from this street onto the streets that we've seen have had a success on the businesses during COVID. I think COVID has shown where it could be expanded and where it can be successful. And I think businesses would definitely benefit from having this pedestrian-only passages, and also the safety of others is is like the top priority. And I think it'd be great for folks to just feel safe and also be able to venture into more festive activities downtown. The safer it becomes, the more activities are able to go down. So I really appreciate this, and I hope it can expand. I hope there's an accessibility for pedestrians that's similar to that of a campus. As you'd say, walking to your gym, to your cafeteria, to your bed and such like that. That should be walkable, and your walk should be safe as well. So thank you so much for this. I hope we keep expanding.
Thank you. Councilmember Smith.
Thank you so much, Mayor. Another, just like amazing topic to talk about tonight. I want to thank, our city manager, Melissa Stevenson Diaz, because she knew it was going to give us the warm and fuzzies tonight. So I am so excited for this. I knew that the downtown of Redwood City was an amazing place when I first moved here, and this is going to make it even better. I can't, agree enough with Vice Mayor Hale, Councilmember Espinoza Garnica. It's just such a special happening that's going to contribute to our downtown. So I'll keep it brief, but I'm really excited for this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Reddy?
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to add also briefly that just to add the compliments of my colleagues, and thank you, Ms. Manzi, for this excellent presentation. It was very clear and easy to make it easy for us to get excited about it. And to add the comment that Vice Mayor Hale made at the meeting where this balloon was floated, the then interim chief fire chief was explaining that for safety, from the fire department's point of view, they wanted both ends closed, but they wanted some sort of mechanism so that they could come in easily if they needed to. So this was one of the options that was floated to us, and we were very excited about it because aesthetically it was more appealing than some of the others that were offered. And I want to thank the business group too for its generosity. This is in their this will benefit them as well, and I'm really appreciative of their generosity in supporting this project. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilmember Reddy. I see no other comments. I did want to, Councilmember Aguirre.
Thanks, Mayor. Last minute, just ditto, exciting. I think this is great, especially for families with children. And I've always felt that it was closed, but I know that it wasn't safely closed. So now I'm really excited to be at this space.
Thank you. And I know Councilmember G expressed his support earlier, and we thank him for that. I was going to say, as we put the bollards in, I hope maybe we could also look at the Winslow end to solidify areas for pickup and drop off going forward, because many of the Uber and the Lyft and people picking up food, they go to that area and it's a little bit confusing. They pull over anywhere sometimes, so maybe it's a chance for us to really look carefully at a pickup and drop off system that really works at that end of Theater Way. I wanted to say thank you so much to RCIA for their financial support and just being a great partner throughout all of this. Downtown Business Group, thank you for reaching out to all the businesses on Theater Way. We have wonderful partners in both of you, and we really appreciate it. You are going to help make downtown an even better experience than it already is. Thank you. When we first built Theater Way, I have to say, it was in the plans to close that and keep that street closed, but at the time, it wasn't the right time. Well, I couldn't think of a better time than now to be able to close it permanently, except for emergencies, and I'm just so happy to support this motion. So thank you all for your comments, and now we'll move on to the vote. And I'd like to know...
I'd like to move to recommend all the actions, and I don't know if we can take them all as one.
And I'll second that.
And I was going to ask the city attorney if we could take all the motions as one, even though item number 2 requires 5 votes.
Thank you, Mayor. And yes, the City Council can take all as one motion. It just requires at least 5 members' affirmative votes.
Okay, that's wonderful. So I have a motion by Councilmember Aguirre and a second by Vice Mayor Hale. We'll call for the roll call.
Thank you. We'll start with Councilmember Reddy.
Yes.
Councilmember Smith.
Yes.
Councilmember Aguirre.
Yes.
Councilmember Espinoza Garnica.
Yes.
Councilmember G.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hale,
Yes.
and Mayor Howard.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
Better to have 7. Okay, moving on now to item number 8, matters of council interest. And 8A is the city council member referral, the resolution supporting unionization of Dignity Health security officers. Our city manager, Melissa Stevenson Diaz, will give an overview of the referral process.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and members of the public. Thank you. I'll just briefly remind the Council that the referral process is an opportunity for City Council members to suggest that the full Council support staff work on a new initiative that had not previously been raised. And so the item that's before you from Councilmember Aguirre is something that has not been studied by staff at this point. It is not something that we have a recommendation on. And so should the council wish to proceed, then we would assess the resources necessary and the timeline to move forward. So with that, I'd like now to turn it over to Councilmember Aguirre to talk more about the substance of the referral. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. I appreciate the introduction. A few months back, I was able to meet with a group of Dignity Health workers throughout the state, and based on some of the things that I thought were very important to me, I thought that this was important for our city council to consider and discuss and see if this is something that we want staff to come back with. And, you know, many of the workers in Redwood City and other places are seeking to organize in their own workplace, and security workers at Dignity Health reached out and with these unionized efforts. So I know that voting on whether to organize a union is a topic that many workers have faced in our country. And for myself, this is important as I also belong to a union. I come from family that belongs to the unions, and how important and valuable that is to us as we move forward with our rights. And so, and I also bring it back to me, one of the main things that came up is equity, and equity is a top priority for me and a guiding principle for our city. And I believe that unions can help give workers a voice and assist workers faced with equity issues in the workplace. And as we know, safety in the workplace is very important, especially during the pandemic. And I think that unions can help improve the workplace. So it's important for employers to recognize their employees and the rights to unionize. And that's why I brought it forward to my colleagues.
Thank you, Council Member Aguirre.
Yeah.
And, okay, I have some hands raised from the City Council. Okay, Vice Mayor Hale, we'll start with you.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I just want to say thank you, first of all, to all of the speakers who came to share their passion for this issue and why it matters. And especially to Councilwoman Aguirre for framing it up so nicely for us as a discussion in this referral. I do believe that this echoes so many of the sentiments our council has spoken about recently, and so much about what we have seen happen during this pandemic and how workers have put themselves out there. Because this is such an important issue, and because there are so many groups looking to unionize, I am wondering if the maker of the motion, or the maker of Councilman Aguirre, would be open to an amendment where we consider making a broader statement. So not about one individual group, but about the ability for all groups to organize without interference from their employers. I'm wondering if that captures the sentiment and would extend beyond a single group to many groups that seek this representation.
Now, Councilmember Aguirre, would you like to hear from everyone before you answer the question, or?
Yes, please. Thank you.
You're welcome. Councilmember Espinoza Garnica.
Hi, I'd like to also thank Councilmember Aguirre for proposing this or referring this to council. I deeply side with them on labor rights and, you know, supporting workers' rights to bargain and collectively organize to represent themselves in the workforce. And
So I do support it as is, and I know that there are many things that we can do to continue to support workers in their efforts to organize, and that could be led up to another referral, I think, even to support the PRO Act, which is, an initiative to not initiative, but, it's amendments to the National Labor Council Act to strengthen workers' abilities to unionize and their ability to create a union, because non-union members typically face higher worker inequality and lower wages than unionized members. So when we are talking about social justice, we know that also means, believing in unions and supporting unions and workers' rights to unionize. And when we talk about self-care, we also talk about workers' rights to unionize, because no matter how many, face masks you do, you really need paid time off, healthcare benefits to really ensure that you are living fully holistically and a sound life. So I definitely support this, and I hope that we can also support any other resolutions that are, supporting stronger labor protections, labor workers protections, and recognize how brave it is for workers to even organize so publicly, because typically, and this is what the PRO Act would try and prevent, is there is a retaliation by employers, and they are able to permanently rehire and replace these workers who go out on strike or try to unionize. So I think we definitely need to encourage, that employers recognize workers' rights to unionize, because of, this productivity. The workers create everything that goes around in our society, and we ought to recognize that workers hold the power here, and we ought to recognize their dignity in their work. So thank you so much, Councilmember Aguirre.
Thank you. Councilmember Smith.
Yes, thank you so much, Mayor. So I'd just like to say that I am so proud of the group of organizers from SEIU who has come forward and really tried to advocate for themselves. My own mother actually worked in a hospital. She was a nurse, and I understand how grueling and how tough it can be as a hospital worker to just be as effective to the patients that need you as possible. And so I want to say that to those security guards who work at Dignity Health, just keep on keeping on. We are seeing you, we're hearing you. And I would also like to say that I'm really interested in the proposal that Vice Mayor Hale put forward. And we get so many requests from labor unions, from different organizations throughout the area, that I want them to all know that we are behind them, certainly. As a group of labor organizers, we see you, and we want to ensure that you and the contributions that you make to our community are recognized and understood in a way that obviously from a compensation and job security perspective is appreciated. And so with that in mind, I really enjoy the idea of kind of moving forward with having a general consensus that we support those in our community who are interested in organizing in reference to their jobs or employment in terms of labor. So I'm really interested in seeing how other council members feel about that. But again, I want to thank those guard members who have come forward. It takes an act of courage to come forward and make your voice be heard, especially when it comes to, your job. So again, thank you so much, and look forward to hearing what others have to say.
Thank you. Councilmember G.
Thank you, Mayor Howard, and thank you, Councilmember Aguirre, for bringing this forward. And thank you to all the members of the security guards at Dignity Health who spoke this evening. every worker deserves a safe work environment, free of harassment, attacks, discrimination. I am supportive of the workers having their opportunity to organize. And if council decides to support this, as staff works on this, I don't know enough to know all the National Labor Relations Board rules and best practices. So if council says yes to this, I would want to make sure that whatever happens is consistent with NLRB rules and regulations, that we don't rely on voluntary employer recognition, that if we go through this effort and the workers say yes and want to unionize, but the employer doesn't have a choice, that they need to be recognized, not just voluntarily, or at least we know that going in. Vice Mayor Hale, with regards to your suggestion, I'm very open to it, but I want to be thoughtful and strategic in our language. I think if I heard you correctly, there was the word interfere with worker opportunities. I don't think all employers are bad actors. I don't think we should lump all employers together under one label. I think we can frame an effort to say that we support the opportunity for workers to express their voice, to have the opportunity to vote if they want to be unionized. But I would encourage us to be thoughtful with maybe words like employer interference and things like that, and lumping all employers together in one bucket. Just my thoughts and reactions. But thank you for bringing that forward, Vice Mayor Hale.
Thank you, Council Member G. Council Member Reddy.
Thank you very much, Mayor. And thank you so much, Councilmember Aguirre, for bringing this referral to us. And also my thanks to the passionate stories brought to us by our Dignity Health employees, the security guard employees. My SEIU and Unite Here members know me as someone who has joined them on picket lines myself. And as a private citizen, I will continue to do that. I'm a little bit concerned about my role as a city council member telling another organization what they should and should not do. So I have to confess I do have that little piece that I'm thinking about. And therefore, I appreciate Vice Mayor's suggestion that we have a more general resolution, which I wholeheartedly support, because I wholeheartedly support workers and their right to organize, their right to expect that they will be able to organize. And so I, as one person, would support that that amendment if our referral maker would be open to it. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councilmember Aguirre, I wanted to say that, first of all, I wanted to thank you for bringing this to our attention. You have a history of listening. I know that over many years you've been on City Council, that you listen to both sides of arguments, of challenges. And for years, we've had different groups and organizations come before us. And I give you a lot of credit that you do listen. And you just don't, you find it insignificant or not use your time to listen to someone when they have concerns or they feel they're not being represented. So I do appreciate that. And I know over the years we've had these questions given to us many times. As a nurse, I have to say I've been in a union. I actually had to walk a picket line in New York. It was really uncomfortable. It's not where I wanted to be. I wanted to be with my patients. But I have that experience, and I also have the experience of being on the other side of the equation as an administrator in a hospital. So I know both sides of the problem. And what I've come to realize, the most important thing is to encourage people to listen to each other, both sides, listen to each other, work things out, and don't put the whole community in such a state where you're putting your self-interest over the benefit of the whole community. So that was the advice that I gave to both sides in this regard, and I've always given in the past. I want both sides to operate in good faith. I do know that there's a question about, I think it's called a mixed guard union, and I understand there is controversy around that. But I would be in support of what Council Member G has suggested, that we make a statement to our values. And our values, I feel, are making statements that we support the right for collective bargaining by employees, and we encourage employees and employers to work together for the better good. So I would be in support of a statement such as that, because that speaks to not just Dignity Health, but any organization in our community. That's what we would want, that's what we would expect of ourselves, and therefore I would expect it of anyone else. So at this point, I think I'll turn it back over to Council Member Aguirre so that she can respond to some of the things that have been said by our colleagues.
Thank you, Mayor, and I want to thank my colleagues for your thoughtful comments. I think they are in line with my thinking of moving in a direction of supporting people that work in our community. And we're very fortunate to have Dignity Health in Redwood City. There isn't another city in the Bay Area. So we're very fortunate to have a hospital as that. We want to make sure that folks that work in our community at all levels have the unionized and have the right to have better benefits. And I also want to thank all of the folks that came forward tonight to tell us your story and to share with us. And when you think about those things, it's like we need to support folks that get better benefits and be able to unionize. So I am open to the idea of Vice Mayor Hale, and so if she's ready to make a motion on that, I would support that.
Well, what I'm seeing here is that we're being asked to, if we would want to vote on to direct staff to return at a future City Council meeting with a proposed resolution, and maybe Councilmember Aguirre or Vice Mayor Hale or Councilmember G would like to craft some language that would help staff, I think, in giving them direction.
I just thought I saw the city manager, Mayor.
Ms. Diaz, thank you. Your hand is raised.
Yes, thank you. Appreciate all the feedback from council members tonight. That's been helpful. And one thought I might suggest is to refer this to the Equity and Social Justice Committee to work with staff on a resolution that could come back to the full council.
That would be great. Thank you. Do we have to vote on this? Or is that just a recommendation? We do need
I
to
think
vote
we
on
do
the
need to.
recommendation.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So then I would make that motion that our city manager made.
And that would be to direct this to the Equity and Social Justice Committee and
to work with staff on coming back to this full city council.
Okay, thank you. Okay. I think, Ms. Diaz, I'm not able to hear you and your video is frozen, but I think I captured the motion correctly. I'll check with our city attorney if she's okay with the motion that was just made, which is to refer this to the Equity and Social Justice Committee and work with city manager's office and city attorney to bring back a recommended resolution. Would that be correct?
Yes.
I can't hear you, Ms. Ramirez. Can you turn your...
Can
you hear me now?
Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. I just wanted to make sure that I understood the motion. Yes, I think that it's clear as to what the direction is to staff on working with the committee in order to create a resolution. I thought I understood when I heard the council members talking that it was to prepare a resolution that would be supporting unionization and organization generally, and I just want to make sure that that was part of the motion that is coming to directing staff. Is that accurate?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you.
I think what it was important was Councilmember Aguirre said that we do respect dignity, health, as well as the workers. So we would like to make a more generalized statement in support of collective bargaining. And I think I understood that correctly. Would that be correct, Councilmember Aguirre?
Yes.
Okay.
That would.
Thank you very much. Okay, so I have a motion made by, I'm going to say Councilmember Aguirre, and then seconded by Vice Mayor Hale. Would that be correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, everyone's freezing on me tonight. Here we go. Okay, I'm going to turn it over for a roll call vote by our city clerk.
Thank you. We'll start with Councilmember Smith.
Yes.
Councilmember Aguirre.
Yes.
Councilmember Espinosa Garnica.
Yes.
Councilmember G.
Yes.
Councilmember Reddy.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hale.
Yes.
And Mayor Howard.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Ms. Aguilar. Moving on now to item number 8B. Does any member of council have a report of conferences attended? I see a hand raised. Councilmember Reddy?
I apologize, Mayor. I did not remove my hand from before.
Thank you. That's okay. Okay, then moving on to item 8C, City Council Committee reports. I'd like to report out on the Harborview Ad Hoc Committee. Vice Mayor Hale, Councilmember Smith, and I are on the Harborview Ad Hoc Committee. We met with city staff on Tuesday, July 6th, and on July 23rd to review the proposed Harborview Development Project. The project is located at 320-350 Bloomquist Street and is proposing 3 office buildings totaling 765,000 square foot, a 35,000 square foot employee amenities building, an on-site parking structure, public and private open space, as well as a proposed publicly accessible ice rink. The project as proposed will require a rezoning and includes a proposed development agreement between the city and the applicant. The committee's role is to advise staff in considering a potential development agreement. The committee will meet again in August. Thank you. Meeting on 8D, City Manager report. Ms. Melissa Stevenson Diaz, would you give an update for us, please?
Mayor Howard, I don't believe Mayor or City Manager Stevenson Diaz is on the call currently, but one update for the City Council at least is we have National Night Out. We're doing a similar version this year in 4 different neighborhoods. Some of the prominent ones, Stambaugh, Heller, and Palm Park will be teaming up over at Jardín de Niños Park. There'll be a vaccination clinic as well for the community if they'd like to come out and get vaccinated and come to a wonderful community event. And then also the Centennial neighborhood will also be hosting a wonderful National Night Out event. And this is really connecting our community with our public safety partners, our fire department, our police department, and it's just a great grassroots event that we do annually here in Redwood City.
Mr. Kojikian, could you say the date again? I'm sorry.
It is Tuesday, August 3rd.
And it'll be on our website?
It's all on our website, yes.
Thank you very much. That's great to hear. Ms. Diaz, are you available? She's almost back with us. She's rebooting. Haven't heard that word in a while. Rebooting. Thank everybody for their patience. We're just having a little technical difficulties this evening. But I know that she has something special to share with everyone. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to bring that on. wanted to thank all the artists who did art on the square last Friday evening. That was very, very successful. And the music on the square was highly successful. Have to hear about the concert in Redwood Shores. I'll have to ask Councilmember G about that.
It was well attended, Mayor Howard, and thank you to all our sponsors that help bring music to our communities, both at Stafford Park, Redwood Shores, and downtown. I think it's great for everyone to feel they can have a chance to get out and enjoy each other.
Great, thank you. Ms. Diaz?
Yes, thank you so much. Can you hear me okay at this point?
Yes.
All right, apologies for the lack of virtual background. We're just going with the flow when it comes to technology tonight. And so grateful for our IT staff who are always here trying to make it work. So I did have 3 items that I wanted to update the council on. First, I wanted to follow up on some questions that arose at the last city council meeting. Members of the public had raised questions about the city receiving $10 million in new funds and questioning about the use of those funds. And I did want to make sure to convey that the city actually has pursued legal action over many years in order to be sure that we could retain affordable housing funds that we had received in the past when we had the role of being the Redwood City Redevelopment Agency. And this dispute arose when the state dissolved redevelopment agencies. And so decisions were made at that time about what funds would be retained by the successor agency to the redevelopment agency and what funds would be returned to other taxing entities. The City Council serves as the governing body for the successor agency and directs the use of the agency's funds. So we learned this spring that the city had prevailed in our advocacy, and we received $10.3 million from the California Department of Finance this June. These funds have to be used in compliance with redevelopment law, and they'll be recorded in the city's low and moderate income housing asset fund. They will not be used in the general fund or used for general city operations, and we're actively looking at opportunities to use those funds in the near term to be able to advance the City Council's priorities. And I had 2 additional updates. Next, I wanted to share that we have begun the process of providing even more services in person. This has been a phased approach, as I've shared over time, with services offered in the spring, first through the library and Parks and Rec. And in this past week, we have started our summer hours at City Hall. And those are on Tuesdays and Wednesdays each week. And I'm hoping now to have the City Clerk's office help us with a quick video. Thank you very much, Jessica. And at the end there was a link to our website where you can get more details on our reimagining work and how our services are continuing to evolve. We're continuing to offer a wide range of services on a virtual and remote basis, and we're expecting to be able to continue to add to our in-person services. Now, certainly we started this at a time when there is some growing concern about the Delta variant, and we are now following the lead of the county in requiring that anyone who is working or visiting city facilities, indoor facilities, those individuals do need to wear a mask, and we're providing free masks. So when you need to conduct business in person, then that will be required. We've also taken steps to improve a lot of the physical aspects of City Hall to help support public health and safety. And that includes setting up more protective barriers as well as upgrades to our HVAC systems to improve air quality. I also wanted to call out that there are many, many opportunities for vaccination, and if you've already been vaccinated yourself, please help someone else become vaccinated. You can find a calendar of county-sponsored clinics at their website at smchealth.org/vaccine clinic calendar. You can also go to My Turn or go to one of the 60 pharmacies in the county that are offering shots. And then last, I wanted to provide an update on the proposed anti-displacement strategic plan that staff is working on. You've endorsed this effort earlier this year, and so we've been actively engaged in community listening and understanding in order to bring forward a proposed plan this fall. So far, we have had a couple of meetings related to landlord and property manager engagement. We had workshops in May, as well as 3 focus group meetings in June. And then we held a 2-part conversation series with landlords and property managers regarding relocation assistance, just cause eviction, and minimum lease terms in July. We also have begun work with tenant engagement, and Faith in Action facilitated several focus groups in June in English and in Spanish with tenants in order to discuss tenant protection policies. On July 29th, the city will hold a meeting that will be both by Zoom and in person, a meeting with tenants on July 29th to discuss tenant protection policies. And this meeting will be conducted in English and Spanish as well. We'll have another meeting on August 5th on these similar topics, as well as housing preservation. Additionally, we have conducted a needs assessment survey of all of our mobile home park residents, and we received responses from 90 residents. We're planning to hold 1 virtual and 1 in-person meeting with those residents in September, and also start meeting with property owners of mobile homes in August and September. Additionally, we've conducted over 15 stakeholder interviews with affording housing developers, community land trusts, the Chan Zuckerberg Institute, HART, and staff from several other jurisdictions. So it's a very comprehensive effort that is underway, and I wanted to make sure to be able to share that with you and the community. And that concludes my report this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Diaz. What a wonderful video. We missed all of you too. That was really sweet. Thank you very much for sharing that. And we have no other business this evening. Our next meeting is going to be on August 23rd, 2021. I want to thank you all for joining us this evening. I want to encourage you all to please stay safe, wear masks when necessary, and please encourage all your family and friends to be vaccinated. It's so important. I want you all to stay safe, go out there and have a good evening, and have a great week. Good night.
Goodbye.